we present Kenneth Williams, Derek Nimmo, Clement Freud and Geraldine Jones in Just a Minute. And as the minute waltz fades away, here to tell you about it is your chairman, Nicholas Parsons.
Thank you very much, and welcome once again to Just a Minute. And as you've just heard, four superb players of the game about to do battle once more in this verbal battle of wits, and try and speak for just a minute on some unlikely subjects that I will give them without hesitation, without repetition, and without deviation. And they will score points or otherwise as the game progresses, and you'll see how this works. Let us begin this particular game with Geraldine Jones. Geraldine, how to get a seat in a crowded train. That is the subject. Will you try and speak for just a minute, starting now?
As all audiences of this programme will know, chivalry is dead, so it's no longer possible to get a seat in a crowded train simply by getting on and looking beautiful, by fluttering your eyelids. Everyone remains stolidly in their seats. The only way really to succeed is to do something spectacular. You have to feint. You have to come in hiding one leg under your coat so that they'll think you only have one leg. Then perhaps people will get up. It's no use either having a lot of baggage, because people are so distracted looking after your baggage that they don't think that you want to seat as well.
Derek Nimmo, why do you challenge?
Repetition, too much baggage.
Well, there was twice repetition of baggage, which means that Derek Nimmo, as his challenge was justified, gains a point. He also takes the subject. He has 30 seconds for how to get a seat in a crowded train, starting now.
As all listeners to this programme know, the best way of getting a seat in a railway carriage or in a crowded train is to get on and look beautiful and flutter your eyelids. The worst way is to come and pretend that you're maimed and have only one leg. I always get onto a train and flutter away, and you'll be surprised what happens. Immediately, people leap up and leave the...
Kenneth Williams.
Repetition. We had two flutters.
You're quite right, we did. You challenged a bit late on it. It was a long time ago.
I just realised.
Yes, I know. Well, better late than never, anyway, Kenneth. Because your challenge was justified, you gain a point, and you have 7 seconds for the subject, how to get a seat in a crowded train, starting now.
The way to get a seat on a crowded train is, of course, quite obvious to anyone with brains. Book it in advance. Which is what I always do.
Well, as Kenneth Williams was speaking when the whistle went, which tells us that 60 seconds is up, he gains another point. And this means that on this particular occasion, at the end of this first round, we have an unusual situation. Kenneth Williams is in a commanding lead. He has 2 more points than Clement, Freud or Geraldine Jones, who have yet to score. Kenneth Williams, will you begin the second round for us? Things people try to get me to do. Plenty of thought for that one, Kenneth. 60 seconds will do to talk about it, starting now.
Well, they once said to me in Singapore, why don't you get up and go on the stage and do a turn? And I said, but what would I do? And they said, well, do your impersonations. You're good with them. So I got up and did Suzette Tari. And I said, oh, hello, I come ashore in my bush hat. And they said, are you one of Wingate's boys? And I said, no, I'm one of Colgate's girls. And it was disaster. And they said, get off, you're dreadful. So I got off, and that made a most inauspicious beginning to the time that I got...
Derek Nimmo, your challenge.
Hesitation, he was sort of giving up.
More than...
expiring.
He was rather running down. The act had come to a rather sudden ending. 17 seconds for things people try to get me to do, Derek Nimmo, starting now.
People often ask me to recite...
Clement Freud, you're challenged. Hesitation indeed. There are 15 seconds for the subject, Clement Freud, starting now.
Dancing is one of the things most people try to get me to do. Come over here, they say, placing their left hand behind my shoulder blades. Push forward your right leg.
Derek Nimmo, why do you challenge?
Hesitation.
Well tried, Derek Nimmo. Completely unjustified. Clement Freud, because your challenge was not correct, gains another point. He keeps the subject, and there are 5 seconds for him to continue, starting now.
Left, right, slow, quick, slow, and off...
Derek Nimmo, why you challenge?
Repetition.
Of course, slow, quick, slow, yes. There we are. Is that right? Is that why you challenged?
Yes, repetition.
Oh, that's right. Yes, well,
Too slow.
Yeah, 2 slows is repetitious, yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, terrible.
2 seconds for you, Derek Nimmo, to things people try to get me to do, starting now.
They asked me to recite nursery rhymes.
Well, as Derek was speaking when the whistle went, he gains another point, which gives him just a small lead over Kenneth Williams, who is still in second place. Clement Freud third, Geraldine Jones fourth. Derek Nimmo, your turn to begin. Odd letters I have received. That is the subject. Will you start talking now?
I once got a letter from a gentleman in Birmingham asking to wash my clothes for me, and he said he'd package them and send them back by return of post. I didn't reply. I did also get a rather odd letter the other day from a clergyman wanting to know why it was that he was a Baptist minister, in fact, actually. Why, on television...
Clement Freud. Hesitation. Clement, you take the subject with 2 seconds. Odd letters I have received, starting now.
The first, third, fifth, and seventh letters that I received this morning could, in every sense of the word, be called odd. What was particularly strange about this mail was that instead of starting, Dear Clement Freud, they said, Sir or Madam, unless... which is not...
Derek Nimmo, why...
Hesitation.
Derek, the subject is back with you with 19 seconds starting now.
The first letter I got this morning was a most curious epistle. I looked at it and I read.
Kenneth Williams, why do you... Hesitation. Kenneth, subject is now with you.
Stutter. I have an affliction. It's very rude to make fun of it. I just have to go ha, ha, ha all the time, and I can't help it. It's
well,
very
you should
rude.
see someone about it.
Well, you've seen it on this occasion, Kenneth. You have gained yourself a point with 15 seconds for odd letters I have received, starting now.
Well, one of the oddest was from a woman who said, I know who you really are, and I know you did my operation, and I'm going to get you. She said, oh, you've changed your identity, but I'm going to be round there at the stage door, and I'm going to get you.
Geraldine Jones, you've challenged.
Repetition of getting to...
Yes, he was going to be got more than once, wasn't he? So, Geraldine, you have a point, and you have the subject in 2 seconds, starting now.
One odd letter I got asked me to...
So, Kenneth Williams has leaped back into the lead again. Clement Freud, your turn to begin. Betting slips. That's the subject. 60 seconds, starting now.
A betting slip is a piece of paper that you make out giving the name of a horse and the amount of your investment. If you go into a shop in order to have what is called a punt, you put...
Derek Nimmo, why do you challenge?
Hesitation.
I don't think so, no. 49 seconds for betting slips, Clement Freud, starting now.
You put the amount of money to win in one column and the amount you wish to invest on a place in another. Add the name of the horse involved, the time of the race, the place of the meeting, and your name or pseudonym at the bottom, and you pass it through a window at a counter and say, here is my betting slip, pray give me a receipt for it. And these slips are then punched by a machine and formed into a pile where the bookmaker puts them before assessing the amount that you have won or lost in order that he might make his returns, which the government...
Why?
Hesitation.
I must point out to the listeners, it was hardly fair. They were all trying to stare him out, sort of force him into an error. The error occurred. Derek Nimmo pressed his buzzer first, so he has 14 seconds to take out the subject of betting slips, starting now.
When I went to the last race meeting, on the floor, all over the paper, used betting slips. As I went towards them, the most extraordinary thing happened. You'll never believe it, actually. But I suddenly fell on
Clement
these bits
Freud
of
challenge.
paper.
Clement, why you challenge?
Hesitation.
Oh, I think he was in full flow. No, I'm sorry. There's 1 second for betting slips. Derek Nimmo starting now.
Little green gauge.
As you see, I have a very difficult task sometimes. Challenges, I think, were very borderline, but I gave the benefit of the doubt to Derek. So Derek Nimmo has a definite lead over Kenneth Williams and Clement Freud, who's now equal with Kenneth. Geraldine is trailing a little. But Geraldine, it is your turn to begin. The subject is the tonic sulfur. Would you speak on this for just a minute, starting now?
As I'm not at all given to sadism, I shan't sing the tonic sulfur to the audience because it would be such an unpleasant experience for anyone who's not absolutely tone deaf. Instead, I shall recite it. Do, re, mi, fa, so, la, ti.
Clement Freud, why do you challenge?
A repetition.
Of what?
Doe was going to come up again.
Premonition, not repetition.
Yes, very clever. The thing is that you obviously wanted to get in before anybody else. Look, I know the only fair thing I'll put it to the
I
audience.
concede.
You concede?
Yes.
You concede.
I
Well,
mistimed my challenge.
You mistimed your challenge. Well, that's very fair of you. Geraldine Jones has another point, and she has the tonic sulfur still. 45 seconds left, starting now.
T followed by the first syllable of the scale. Those people who can't actually see me won't realise how agonised it was. How agonising it was.
Derek Nimmo, your challenge. Hesitation. There are 37 seconds for the tonic sulfur, starting now.
It was green and leather-backed and rather beautifully buttoned, and it stood on 4 wooden legs.
Kenneth Williams, why
That's
did you...
deviation. It's not the sofa, it's the sulphur.
That's what I was doing, actually, really.
Can you justify very rapidly, Derek?
Can you justify it?
No, he can't.
I used to lie on it and sing my scales.
Oh, he did. You never said it, did you?
Brilliant.
Yes, but Kenneth Williams, I've given you a point. And you have the subject of the tonic sulfur, 31 seconds. Starting now.
The only time my attention was really ever drawn to it was this woman who said she'd teach me the piano. I haven't hesitated.
Clement Freud has once again withdrawn his challenge, but there is
Middle of it I was.
If you can pick up it... Kenneth, without taking too much umbrage, if you can pick up in the middle, there are 25 seconds left for the tonic sulfur, starting now.
She said to me, if you get this in your head, you'll easily be able to play. But the unfortunate thing was she had this terrible bad breath, and every time she leant towards me, I kept edging away. So I never really learnt the fingering.
Clement Freud, why do you shout? Yes, I do. I don't think this lady's unfortunate better than anything.
Tonic sulphur, I'm learning it.
Clement Freud definitely has a point at this occasion. 12 seconds for the tonic sulfur, Clement Freud, starting now.
When I went to this health resort, they said the most beneficial...
Derek Nimmo, why do you challenge?
Talking about health resorts, not tonic so far. But
Can you justify it rapidly?
Yes.
Oh, quickly.
Sulfur is tremendously tonic making.
No, this is sulfur. I'm so sorry. Derek Nimmo has another point. And there are 9 seconds for the subject, Derek, starting now.
do, re, mi, fa.
Clement Freud with a challenge, yes.
Hesitation.
Indeed. 6 seconds for you, Clement Freud, with a tonic sulfur, starting now.
This is a musical scale about which I don't know a great deal other than what...
Kenneth Williams, why do you challenge?
Well, if he doesn't know anything about it, why discuss it? Ludicrous, isn't it?
So, why do you challenge?
Deviation.
All right, I'll give it to you. So you have another point, Kenneth, and you have 3 seconds for the tonic sulfur, starting now.
The tonic sulphur illustrates the octaves, and I have 3.
Kenneth Williams gets another point for finishing when the whistle
But I
went.
leapt into the lead!
You have leapt back into second place, Kenneth. And you're going to start this next round. It's apt, after the way you've been going on. Castles in the air. That's the subject, Kenneth. 60 seconds, starting now.
Castles in the air, I presume, would refer to things which are illusory. That is to say, one would never actually see one floating in the air. I particularly want to see one floating in the air.
Clement Freud, why do you challenge?
Repetition.
Of floating in the air, yes. Alas. So there we are. Clement has another point. He has 45 seconds for castles in the air, starting now.
This is something which is a name given... Yes.
Geraldine Jones, you challenge. Why?
Hesitation.
Hesitation, yes. I think Kenneth Williams helped you a little there, because he... I must explain to the listeners how he helped. He actually tickled Clement Freud. And those who have heard previous editions of the game will know there's something very definite going on between these two. We'll go no further. We'll pass on to Geraldine Jones with 40 seconds for castles in the air, starting now.
Kenneth Williams is clearly one of those people who walks with his eyes on the ground, because if he ever lifted them...
Derek Nimmo, why do you challenge?
Deviation, just being rude to Kenneth Williams.
Rudeness is not a reason for which you can challenge, so Geraldine Jones has another point, and she has 25 seconds for the subject, starting now.
If he ever lifted them up, he would see hundreds and hundreds of castles in the air. They're all...
Kenneth Williams, why do you challenge?
Yes, it's not castles, it's castles. She's doing this all the time. She said sardis,
Where were you
and everyone
born?
knows it's sadist.
Geraldine, where were you born?
born in Liverpool.
That's all right. She's born in Liverpool. She can say castles if she wants to. So Geraldine has another point. She has 31 seconds. For castles or castles in the air, starting now.
Looking up at them, you imagine that they're tremendously spacious and luxurious to live in.
Kenneth Williams, why do you challenge?
Deviation, how can you possibly look up at them if they don't exist?
Well, if they're castles in the air, Kenneth, they could be anywhere. So, Geraldine has another point, and she has 24 seconds.
They
for the
bring us
subject.
together.
You start now.
They're made, of course, out of clouds, and this means that although they look nice to live in fact, they're perfectly horrible because they're very, very damp. Far more damp even than they were.
Kenneth Williams.
Repetition, very, very.
And damp. And damp.
Yes, that's right.
All right, Kenneth, the point is with you this time for the very, very, and with 15 seconds for castles in the air, you begin now.
They are, of course, illusions, and we all cherish illusions, and a very great man once
Clement
said...
Freud, why do you challenge?
Too many illusions. We've already had them, now we've got them again.
Yes.
You are allowed to do that when you're discussing it.
No, you can only use the word, any word, once. So Clement Freud has a well-deserved point, and there are 12 seconds for you for castles in the air starting now.
High up in the air, you find some of the very best castles. There's one in Caernarvon, and this is...
Kenneth Williams, why do you challenge?
Deviation. Castles in the air has nothing to do with the...
With a
enthroning
real
of Prince
castle. A
Wales.
castle in the air is a fictitious one, I quite agree. Kenneth, you have a point. You have 3 seconds for the subject, beginning now. Clement Freud, why do you challenge? Hesitation, yes. Clement Freud, you have the subject back. There are 2 seconds for castles in the air. They're starting now.
Looking up, one sees these...
Showing the flag, Derek Nimmo. That's a subject for you to talk about, and we'd like you to start now.
I often walk down the Strand with a Union Jack in my right-hand pocket. And as people approach me, I say, "Come here a moment, young man. Would you like to have a look at my flag?" And I bring it out and I show it to them. And they're always terribly intrigued by this. I don't know why, really. They think it's a very funny thing to do. I have been to doctors about it, actually. And they say to me, "Why do you go around everywhere showing your flag?" And I say, "I don't quite know, actually." Another very funny thing. Now, I must tell you, it's one of the nicest flags you can possibly buy is a Turkish flag. This has a lovely...
Clement Freud.
Flag.
Yes, the repetition of flag. Showing the flag, Clement, 27 seconds starting now.
Showing the flag is something which could be called indecent exposure, and there are many people...
There's no need for filth, indecent. I've not come on this programme to listen to a load of filth. Indecent exposure, indeed.
So, why do you challenge...
Deviation.
all
We're
right.
discussing showing the flag.
All
not
right.
indecency. There's nothing indecent about showing the flag.
You more than made your point. We're all with you. Aren't you the audience with... Derek? So, you have a well-earned point, and you have 23 seconds for showing the flag.
Showing the flag.
And you start now.
Well, of course.
Derek Nimmo. That's not fair. He showed the flag too rapidly. He was too keen. I'm going to start again. 23 seconds for showing the flag, starting now.
It means, of course, a display of force. In other words, you reinforce your policy. If you've said before, we are not going to have this, you show the flag and you don't have it.
Derek Nimmo, why do you challenge?
Too many flags.
No, the subject
I
is showing the
didn't say
flag, so he can repeat that. So he has another point.
I've not even said flag twice.
No, you said flag, but not out of the context of showing the flag, and that's why it was against you. This time he said actually showing the flag. Kenneth Williams, we're still with you. 11 seconds, starting now.
So you showed the flag and you sent a gunboat, you see, and they knew where they were when they saw the gunboat approach.
Derek Nimmo, why did
they thought we can't go...
Not really. It's not all this gunboat diplomacy. That's not got nothing to do with showing the flag.
Showing the flag, gunboats.
Mediterranean.
Derek Nimmo, gunboats are definitely showing the flag. You could have had him for repetition of gunboats, because he said it twice. But it wasn't. I'm still with Kenneth Williams. There are 7 seconds, Kenneth, for you. Showing the flag, starting now.
Showing the flag can, of course, mean people going up the mountain and they plant.
Go on saying.
He can't go on forever saying showing the flag. No,
It's the you're allowed to. It's the subject.
not forever, though.
Oh, I think it's definite persecution.
This time,
here.
I'm with you, Derek Nimmo. Another point to you. 5 seconds for showing the flag, starting now.
We steamed into Monte Carlo, all in our lovely white drill. It was a most inspiring sight. Everyone said, "Hello!"
Do with anything. Even really
It's still a fascinating state of play. Kenneth Williams and Derek Nimmo are equal still in the lead. Clement Freud is trailing by 2. Geraldine Jones is trailing by about 6. And we'll press on to the next round. And the ball's in your court this time, Geraldine Jones. Okay, Geraldine, over to you now with what to do with spare time, starting now.
It's almost impossible to say what one should do with spare time because normally one doesn't realise one's had it until it's all over. And then you think, what I should have done. And it's all horribly nostalgic and retrospective and really rather sad. I always like to do nothing with my spare time. It's really quite an art to cultivate the...
Derek Nimmo, why do you challenge?
Deviation.
What?
Well, you've got what to do with it. If you're doing nothing, you're not doing anything.
That's a clever challenge, Derek. I'll give it to you. 43 seconds for what to do with spare time, starting now.
Well, I generally say to myself little things like, Once upon a time, I saw a fairy standing on a haystack. What a lovely fairy it was. And then I saw two gnomes coming down through the green trees. And then a little elf peeping out under a green bush. And then I saw an earwig crawling towards her. A funny little earwig was.
Kenneth Williams, why do you chat?
Deviation. This isn't spare time. He's got a whole cast there.
I think it's utterly devious. I don't know what it's got to do. It's all...
That's what I do in my spare time. I recite these little things.
All these
No. Kenneth Williams has another point. 21 seconds for you, Kenneth Williams, for what to do with spare time starting now.
You should do something profitable with your spare time, and by that I mean profitable, of course, to the
Kenneth Clement Freud, why do you challenge?
Repetition.
Of profitable.
Yes.
16 seconds, what to do with spare time, Clement, starting now.
An ideal thing to do is to sleep for at least half of the period and gainfully...
Derek Nimmo.
Hesitation.
Hesitation, yes, Derek. The subject's back with you starting now.
I take a hammer in my right hand, I take a nail in my left hand, and I bang it.
Clement Freud.
Repetition of hands.
Left hand, right hand, yes.
We've got to have two hands.
You could have said so.
What?
You should have said the other
have said-
hand. Oh, no, you shouldn't. Clement Freud has 1 point. He has 5 seconds for what to do with spare time starting now.
Chewing gum is one of the most gainful things with which you can...
Derek Nimmo, why do you challenge?
Repetition of one.
That's true.
And the subject is Derek Nimmo. What to do with spare time starting now.
Whistle a little tune.
Kenneth Williams, your turn to begin. Weddings as a subject. Would you talk to us on this delightful subject starting now?
Weddings, of course, can mean the joining together of two people. On the other hand, it could mean the joining together of two pieces of material. You would not be inaccurate in referring to such an operation in that manner. But weddings are something I personally abhor. I don't like going to them because, I mean, if people decide to commit themselves to such a step, you realize what fools they're being, and you think, oh, hang on, think again, tied for life, you'll never get out of it, it means endless. Oh, what's he on about?
Repetition. Too much thumping.
A very clever challenge, Derek. I don't think I can really give it, because Clement Freud did stop Kenneth Williams from thumping on the table. So I think it's only fair to award no points and ask Kenneth Williams to continue, if he can, with 27 seconds for the subject of weddings starting now.
Well, of course, you see, the idea is they join together for the rest of the natural...
Geraldine Jones, why do you challenge?
Repetition of joining together.
Yes, he said join together before. Geraldine, you have the subject. 24 seconds left starting now.
I have a rather jaundiced view of weddings because the only ones I've attended, I have done so in the capacity of bridesmaid. And as everyone knows, as it's the bride's day, she always tries to make the bridesmaids look as hideous as possible.
Clement Freud.
Repetition.
Of what?
Bridesmaid.
That's all right, yes. 13 seconds for weddings, Clement Freud, starting now.
Will you take this woman in holy matrimony to have and to hold in sickness and in pain until death do us part?
Kenneth Williams, why...
Inaccurate deviation should be in sickness and in health.
You're quite right. For someone who isn't married...
I'm allowed an explanation.
Yes, you are, but I just didn't say for someone who isn't married, Kenneth. I thought that was jolly clever of you.
Thank you, I say.
But what is your explanation,
I've rehearsed
Clement?
it a lot, you see.
Is something priests say by mistake?
Oh, yes. But now what can I do now? No, he would challenge before you made your mistake, before you said that. I'm not
You
to
didn't
know...
let me finish the sentence.
No, because we weren't to know whether you were going to say that
I see.
afterwards. So what you said was deviation. Kenneth got it in first, so he has another point, and he has 5 seconds left for weddings starting now.
Sometimes, of course, they have an abbreviation.
Clement Freud, why do you
The
challenge?
7th, of course.
But I don't think you can challenge him on exactly the same thing in the same game, I'm sure. You haven't said, of course, before in this particular round, have you?
No!
You haven't said in this particular thing, so you have another point, Kenneth. You have 3 seconds for weddings starting now.
Yes, and you see, they join them together for life. Well, of course, the idea...
Right. So, well, there we are.
I'm in the lead!
Yes. You're not only in the lead, but I have received a message from my producer that our time is up and I must wind up the show. But, Kenneth, I wouldn't worry about that because you are in a small lead. Let me tell you, first of all, that Geraldine Jones came 4th, Derek Nimmo and Clement Freud were equal 2nd, and 2 points ahead of them was this week's winner, our Kenneth Williams.
chairman of Just a Minute was Nicholas Parsons. The program was devised by Ian Messiter and produced by David Hash. Present Kenneth Williams, Derek Nimmo, Clement Freud and Andree Melly in Just a Minute. And as the minute waltz fades away, here to tell you about it is our chairman, Nicholas Parsons.
Thank you very much, and welcome once again to Just a Minute. Just to remind you of the rules of the game, such as they are, I'm going to ask each of them to speak in turn on some unlikely subject which they know nothing about for just a minute, without hesitation, without repetition, and without deviation. In other words, they mustn't pause, they must stick to the subject, and they must keep going. Now let's ask the competitors to do their best and start with the only lady representative we have once again this week, Andree Melly. Andree, doing nothing. Can you try and talk for just a minute on that subject starting now?
This is something I love doing, and I'm very good at it. I think the most nothing you can do is to lie on a beach in the boiling sun and roast gently. Or being a tiny little bit ill, not very, just a bit, and being in bed with chocolates and magazines and having people wait on your hand and foot. That's quite good. Then there's,
Derek Nimmo, you have challenged. Why?
Well, hesitation.
The hesitation. There's a definite hesitation, and as the hesitation is upheld by the chairman, that's 1 point to Derek Nimmo, who takes over the subject with 38 seconds left, starting now.
I lie in a gentle summer meadow, looking up at a cloudless blue sky. The birds are singing, skylarks perhaps. The bees are droning past through the forest.
Kenneth Williams, you challenge. Why?
Oh, it's deviation.
Why?
We're talking about doing nothing. He's talking about observing birds and bees.
I consider, Kenneth, that very clever challenge gains you a point, and of course you have the subject with 27 seconds left, starting now.
The subject is paradoxical. It is impossible, of course, to do nothing. Doing implies usage, and of course nothing is impossible to do.
Kenneth, Clement Freud, you've challenged. Why?
Repetition.
Of what?
He's too much of a doer.
Well done, Clement Freud. 1 point to you, and 14 seconds left for doing nothing, starting now.
In order to do nothing, you must relax every part of your body, disassociate your mind from whatever it is that you had been going to do, and then lie back comfortably and wait for other people to perform all the functions that you might otherwise have.
As Clement Freud was speaking when the whistle went, that means he gains another point, which gives him a lead. He has 2 points at the end of that first round, with Kenneth Williams and Derek Nimmo both having 1 and Andree Melly yet to score. Clement Freud, your turn to begin. Model making. Just a minute will do for you to talk on that subject starting now.
This is something my wife is tremendously against me doing. Many times she has come into the drawing room and said, "Do not make any models. I particularly deplore this habit of yours." I haven't. I have spent the time writing books, published at 10 and 6pence, available at all good booksellers.
Kenneth Williams, why do you challenge?
Because it's totally irrelevant. It's deviation.
But it's true.
It's nothing to do with making models. He's
I
publishing
agree.
books at
I
10 and
agree.
6pence.
I quite agree, Kenneth, yes. Clement Freud's books selling at the publishers have got nothing to do with model making, so you have the subject with a point, of course, and 41 seconds left for model making starting now.
You shouldn't make models, and you shouldn't make anybody. You should let them do whatever they want to do of their own free will. After all, this is what freedom is about. You shouldn't make...
Andree Melly, you challenge.
Deviation is talking about freedom, not about models.
I think you probably need a certain amount of freedom whether you make them or not. So, Kenneth Williams, you still have the subject, and you have 32 seconds left starting now.
Freedom, not to make people do anything. Freedom, after all, wasn't it, Jefferson?
Clement Freud.
Yeah. I got a thing out, hadn't I?
You got out models a great number of times. No, freedom you came out with, sorry, a great number of times. And so Clement Freud has the subject back starting now.
A number of toy shops in most big cities in the country sell a kit whereby you can make your own models at home. And for an aeroplane, this is a very handy thing to have. You get the wings, the undercarriage, and the wheels and the propeller, also a rubber band and some small metal pins. And by use of this, you can make the most superb small model aeroplane, which many people use and go on.
Eric Nimmo, you challenge. One.
Hesitation.
Hesitation, you have a point. You have 4 seconds for model making starting now.
Glue, power preferably of the spirit variety.
Andree Melly, why do you challenge?
Hesitation, power preferably.
That was the name of the brand, you see. Glue, power preferably. It's a very well-known brand.
Would you like to say it again, Derek Nimmo?
Glue, power preferably. It's a very well-known
Yes.
brand.
I wasn't sure until you repeated it that it was, so Andree has a point, and she has 3 seconds left for model making starting now.
Tall, thin girls make expert models.
So it's a pretty keen game. Clement Freud leading Derek Nimmo by 2. Derek Nimmo leading Kenneth Williams. No, he's equal with Kenneth Williams. Kenneth, you're in
Hurrah.
second place for the first time.
Oh, how lovely. At last I've been vindicated.
You can say that when you win one time. Andree is 1 point behind you in 4th place. Kenneth Williams, it's your turn to begin. Osteopathy is the subject. If you'd like to have a little think about it and start talking for just a minute now.
Osteopathy deals with the study of bones, and it is to do with the manipulation of those bones. And I once had one manipulate me, and he hit my funny bone. And I started laughing. It was really a scream. If you'd been there, you'd have died laughing. Because I started going, you know, oh, and he said, hang on a minute, I've only just touched it. I've not actually manipulated it. What I've got to do is to get the bowl back in the socket. I mean, the socket back in the bowl. And by the time we both finished laughing, the thing didn't get back in at all, so I had to go again. Well, one visit led to a...
Andree Melly, why are you challenging?
Repetition, because he had to go again.
Exactly. Well done, Andree. There's quite a repetition of laughter, too, wasn't there? Anyway, Andree, you have another point, and you have 25 seconds for osteopathy starting now.
It's a very difficult subject to study because I imagine you have to know every bone in the body, starting with the toes and working up the legs, hip bones, pelvis, ribs, all those spare ones, collarbones, skull, and your coccyx and all the vertebrae. I believe there are...
Clement Freud, why do you challenge? Clement, you have a point, and you have 7 seconds for osteopathy starting now.
One of the nicest things about osteopathy is that osteopaths never have people who die on them. They just don't get very well, and they're never cured.
Clement Freud has a small lead over Kenneth Williams, who's now in second place, who leads Derek Nimmo by 1, equal with Andree Melly. Andree, it's your turn to begin. Backing out of the garage. Would you like to tell us in just 60 seconds how you do that starting now?
The most important thing is to open the garage doors first. Then see that there isn't a rockery or a flower bed or a 20-foot drop just beyond the doors. Then you get into the car and see that the car is in neutral. Turn the engine on.
Derek Nimmo, you challenge. Hesitation, indeed.
I'm waiting for the engine to warm up.
A clever try, Andree, but alas, too late. The engine didn't fire quick enough for you. 42 seconds, Derek Nimmo, for backing out of the garage starting now.
Well, I usually crawl out backwards, actually. I usually find it more convenient that way. What I do is I roll my trousers up, you see, get down on my hands and knees, and shuffle gently towards the door. I hold a mirror in my right hand so I can see which way I'm going, and I hold a torch in my left hand so I can see, if it's a dark night, which...
Andree Melly.
Hesitation.
Hesitation, indeed, yes. That's a clever idea. Of 22 seconds for backing out of the garage starting now.
Once in reverse, you look into the driving mirror, slowly...
Derek Nimmo, why do you challenge?
Repetition. She's looked in it twice.
I don't
You
remember...
looked in your mirror.
No, she looked in to see if the doors were open a moment ago.
Yes, I don't think she has actually repeated the thing really, truly. So it is 18 seconds left for Andree Melly with another point. Backing out of the garage, Andree, starting now.
I let my foot very slowly come up from the clutch and accelerate a teeny-weeny bit, seeing that...
Clement Freud, why do you
Hesitation.
Yes, there was. She was getting more than hesitating, rather slow, which is...
Well, you can't do it quickly.
I know, but there comes a point when a very slow speech becomes a hesitation. I grant it to Clement Freud with 10 seconds for backing out of the garage starting now.
Many instructors say that you must back out of a garage slowly. I've always thought this was a great mistake because the faster you go into a main road...
Andree Melly.
Hesitation.
Hesitation, indeed. You have 3 seconds for backing out of the garage still starting now.
Turn on your right lock and quickly reverse.
Derek Nimmo, your turn to begin. Useless household gadgets. That's the subject, Derek. Have you writing it down?
Yeah.
Right. Think a second and then start now.
Sorry, I'm about to write it down.
Oh, yes, I'm so sorry.
I've written it. I spelt it wrongly. You see.
USD. Well, that's devious for a start, isn't it?
Yes. Right. Now I'm already prepared. Right.
All right. Derek Nimmo has written down useless household gadgets, and he's going to try and talk about it for 60 seconds, starting now.
These are the sort of things that when you go to big exhibitions at places like Olympia and Earl's Court, you're always finding displayed by very capable people in white clothes, and they hold them up and say, look, this is a marvellous thing for turning an apple into a little flower.
Kenneth Williams.
Hesitation.
Hesitation, indeed. Kenneth, can you talk for the next 46 seconds on useless household gadgets, starting now?
Useless household gadgets obviously are those ones which don't work when you try them out in the practical sense of try out.
Clement Freud, you challenge, why?
Oh, it does make me laugh.
It makes us laugh, too. Clement Freud, you challenge.
Yes.
Why?
The lot. I mean, hesitation and repetition.
All right, hesitation, deviation, and repetition. No, not repetition, but anyway. You have a point, indeed, Clement Freud. You have 37 seconds for useless household gadgets, starting now.
The 2 most useless gadgets I've ever come across was a potato peeler which did not peel potatoes and a tin opener which failed to perform that simple function because it had no spear that pierced the metal as it was meant to do by the designer.
Derek Nimmo, why do you challenge?
Well, he's going so slowly now it's hesitation.
No, I don't.
Yes.
Kenneth Williams, I must tell you, you won't get any points at all unless you keep your hand on that little buzzer thing.
Oh, sorry, yeah, I wouldn't get it.
I got so worried during that thing. Anyway, no, Clement Freud, I don't think you were going slow on this occasion, so you have another point, and you have 22 seconds left for useless household gadgets, starting now.
There's not at the moment a shop in any town in this country which specializes in useless household gadgets. Every shop seems to take a fair share.
Kenneth Williams, you challenge.
Deviation is boring, completely boring.
It may be boring, but quickly think of a better challenge, otherwise you don't get it.
Oh, I can't.
Boring is not win the game, alas. I'm afraid all that happens
sorry.
is Clement Freud has another point, and he has 14 seconds for useless household gadgets, starting now.
Pot scourers that have no emery upon them, wallpaper that does not adhere to walls, a paintbrush that has no bristles.
Andree Melly, why do you challenge?
I don't think wallpaper's a gadget.
Oh.
Deviation.
Very clever. Well done, Andree Melly. A point to you, and there are 6 seconds for useless household gadgets, starting now.
I'm left-handed, so nearly all the gadgets are absolutely useless for me. Though I do believe a shop has just...
Right, Andree Melly has another point there. Let me write it down. So, unfortunately, Clement Freud has just overtaken her. He now is 2 points ahead of Andree. Clement Freud, why do you challenge?
What do you mean, unfortunately?
Because... I'll tell you exactly what I mean, Clement. You see, I'm a naturally chivalrous person. There's only 1 woman here against 3 men, so I rather must admit I like to see the woman occasionally win. And it hasn't happened yet.
You mean you're biased?
Yes.
And more power to your elbow.
I don't want to take my elbow to your osteopath. I'll try that. Clement Freud has a small lead over Andree Melly, and Kenneth Williams is third. Derek Nimmo is 1 point behind fourth. Oh, I know, we'll have a penalty on this round. And, yes, because Clement Freud is going to start. That's a very good reason for having a penalty, because he's doing jolly well. The penalty is the word and. They must not, during this round, mention the word and. The subject is anniversaries, Clement Freud, and you begin now.
Anniversaries are occasions upon which you come up to a date which you've come up to before. There are a lot of dates.
Andree Melly, you challenge why?
Repetition if you've come up to it before.
Yes, indeed. Well done, Andree Melly. You have another point. You have 52 seconds for anniversaries. You mustn't mention the word and you begin now.
Wedding anniversaries have different...
Derek Nimmo, you challenge. Hesitation, indeed. Anniversaries, no ands. Derek, starting now.
The Andes are the rather interesting mountains to go out around to see, because, you see, if you want to go around them, sometimes it doesn't...
Kenneth Williams, why do you challenge?
Well, what's the Andes got to do with anniversaries?
quite
Nicholas,
agreed.
come, you knew very well why I was challenging. Deviation.
I know, but the general public wish to hear as well.
Oh, deviation.
All right, you've established your point. And you've gained a point.
I once spent a birthday in the Andes.
Ah!
Very happy anniversary it was, too.
Never been
Well-
anything like.
Well, it's a bit late now to spend your birthday, unfortunately, Derek, because I've already awarded a point to Kenneth Williams, and we can't take them back. There are 42 seconds left for Kenneth Williams to talk about anniversaries with no ands. Kenneth, starting now.
Anniversaries are the celebrating of events, of course, with 1 year in between. Maffacking, Lady Smith, and...
Clement Freud. Yes, indeed. And so anniversaries, Clement, and there are 29 seconds left, starting now.
Andrea, who is a friend of mine, lives in Andover, spent her anniversaries frequently in Andorra, which is an ideal place for celebrating this sort of occasion. Andrea is a girl of 19 who, when she is 20, will have an absolutely super day and a cake baked by one...
Andree Melly, why
And a cake.
Oh, yes!
And I think you're all listening so hard for the ands, you missed the hesitation as well. But anyway, Andree, you have another point. You have 9 seconds for anniversaries, no ands, starting now.
Birthdays are the kind of anniversaries which are celebrated most. Your first, then your second, your third, fourth.
Clement Freud.
Repetition of
Oh,
anniversaries.
yes, what a pity, Andree. You have another point, Clement Freud. You have 1 second for anniversaries, starting now.
Cakes, buns.
So anniversaries has put Clement Freud with another anniversary. In other words, he's kept the lead. 14 points, I think, over Andree Melly, who's second place, Kenneth Williams third, and Derek Nimmo still trailing a little. Kenneth Williams, your turn to talk. And the subject, which is probably something you can go very well about, talking big. Talk big if you can, for 60 seconds, Derek, starting now.
Talk big means really like walk big, and I walk big and I talk big. I mean, you've got to. It's all apropos of the image you have inside yourself, so that comes out in your conversation. Some people can be minuscule. What you moving my hand? Oh, sorry. Word, he was pushing my hand. Some people talk...
Well, I think hesitation, deviation, and repetition, actually.
Well, unfortunately, as the game is in progress, whatever happens, I've got to grant it to you, Derek. I quite agree. So it is... You want to say something, Mr.?
Let Kenneth have it, because it was an accident.
Our producer has signalled to me that it was an accident, so Kenneth Williams has it. I have been
Do you
overruled.
mean to say that Clement Freud didn't know he was holding his hand?
We thought that they were holding hands. Our producer, who has the final judge, considers it was an accident that they were holding hands. So
We can go on holding hands.
so they could go on holding hands.
You're holding ours on purpose.
I must point out they are sitting next to each other. Otherwise, it would be very devious. There are no points awarded. There are 42 seconds left for Talking Big, Kenneth Williams, starting now.
Talking big is largely the result of psychological thinking. You see, the way you think of yourself is the way you will talk of yourself. Take Mao Zedong. He swam right the way up the Yangtze, according to the Chinese newspapers. But that's what I mean. You see, it makes you feel. If you feel big, you can talk big, you can act big, you can
Andree
be
Melly,
big.
why do you...
Repetition.
Yes,
a
an
lot of
awful
big.
lot of big, yes. Andree, you have a point, and you've gained a point as well, and you have 37 seconds for Talking Big. Will you two stop holding hands and let's get on with the game? Andree Melly, would you like to talk for 37 seconds on Talking Big, starting now?
Talking big means swanking or blowing your own trumpet about things you've done and things you think you are and what you want to do in the future. And
Derek Nimmo, you challenge.
Hesitation.
Hesitation, Derek. Talking Big, starting now.
I want...
Andree Melly, you challenge. Hesitation, you have a point, Andree. 3 seconds left. Talking Big, starting now.
it's better if you're talking big to have a very large mouth with which to do it.
Andree's Talking Big has taken her 1 point behind Clement Freud, who's still in the lead, and Derek Nimmo and Kenneth Williams are both still trailing a little. Andree Melly, your turn to begin. Perhaps you can jump into the lead on this one. The au pair girl, starting now.
The trouble with au pair girls is that they very seldom speak the same language as you do, which makes living with them rather complicated. They're often very pretty, sometimes Swedish, perhaps Danish, Italian, French, young as a rule, and they come to England to study English, and they have to go to classes and help.
Clement Freud.
Hesitation.
You came to our help because of a hesitation. Clement Freud, you have 40 seconds for the au pair girl, starting now. No, I'm sorry. That wasn't fair.
Oh, that was lovely. I thought it was lovely.
I'm glad you appreciate my jokes, Kenneth. I appreciate yours as well. I think it's only fair to start that particular phrase again. But I will still say it. You have 40 seconds left. Clement Freud, starting now.
Au pair is French for to the pair, which is a very good description of a girl because invariably you don't get one. She has an ugly friend who phones up and to whom she phones, reversing the telephone charges. They come into this country ostensibly to look after your children or do the household chores, and many of them do come from foreign countries and try and learn English or...
Andree Melly.
Hesitation.
Hesitation indeed. Andree, you have the au pair girl back with you, and you have 13 and a half seconds left, starting now.
It's always rather vague as to what they're expected to do. They think they should have a nice room with a telephone...
Clement Freud, why you challenge?
Deviation.
Why?
She's not said anything. She's being vague.
She's talking about the au pair girl who expected that she
Hey.
should have a nice room. Andree, I'm with you. The au pair girls always expect a nice room. You have 8 seconds for the au pair girl, starting now.
They're like a television set. Perhaps they look after your children for a bit and occasionally do a bit of washing up. And
Derek Nimmo, you challenge. Why?
Hesitation.
Why? No, there was no hesitation. No, indeed not. No. There are 2 seconds left, Andree, for the au pair girl, starting now.
Nanette or Carla.
Andree Melly blanched when I gave her the subject, but in spite of that, it's taken her into the lead with 2 points ahead of Clement Freud, and Derek Nimmo and Kenneth Williams are still trailing just a little. Derek Nimmo, it is your turn to begin. Punctuality, a thing all actors, I think, have difficulty with. But would you talk, if you can, for just a minute, starting now?
Punctuality means arriving at the right moment at the right time. It is indeed something which I have great difficulty in managing to perform. I generally arrive a little late, I'm ashamed to say. But I would like to be punctual. I would like to be always arriving at the right moment. You know, one of the funny and extraordinary things about life is when you get off a little trolley bus in Glasgow and you suddenly...
Andree Melly, why do you challenge?
Deviation.
Why?
Because he's getting off a trolley bus in Glasgow.
Exactly, and that...
But it was on time.
Trolley buses in Glasgow are never on time, because I was born in Glasgow. I know Glasgow very well indeed. They're always behind time, so Andree has another point. 35 seconds left, Andree, starting now.
To be punctual if you're an actor and working in the theatre is quite difficult because you have to arrive 30 minutes before...
Derek Nimmo, you challenge. Why?
Well, because she's not an actor, she's an actress, you see. Deviation.
Ah, yes, but sometimes one often says inclusively the actors were good, meaning the whole cast. It includes the ladies as well. So, Andree, you have 30 seconds for punctuality, starting now.
30 minutes before the curtain goes up. And in fact, this means 35 minutes before, which is always very confusing. Then you're the... Oh.
Derek Nimmo.
Hesitation.
Hesitation indeed. You have the subject with 20 seconds left for punctuality, starting now.
I synchronized my watch with my friend, and I board my Glaswegian trolley bus. It is 8 o'clock by my watch. Precisely, exactly 8 o'clock.
Andree Melly, why do...
Repetition exactly is the same as precisely.
No, it's a different word altogether.
It's a different word. I don't think that's right. I mean...
Yes, a synonym isn't repetition.
Well done, Kenneth Williams. Marvellously done. But as it's a different word, I can't give you repetition. I don't think within the context of the game. Derek has another point. He has 10 seconds left for punctuality, starting now.
Did you mean to meet me here at this precise moment, I said? Of course I did. Of course I did. It's his uncle, do you see? Yes, I looked at my watch.
Lovely. Oh, that is
Well, I'll work upwards in giving the final result. I won't give the actual points. It might embarrass some people. But Kenneth Williams was, alas, just in 4th place.
But I tried, didn't I? I had a good try.
You
can't say I wasn't game.
No, as chairman, you were very trying on occasion.
Thank you.
And sitting next to Clement Freud, you were very game on occasion.
Oh, you're intrepid, you are.
Derek Nimmo has gone definitely into third place. He's a little way behind Clement Freud, who is in second place. And for the first time, we've had our only lady challenger win. And so it's wonderful. Congratulations to Andree Melly.
The chairman of Just a Minute was Nicholas Parsons. The programme was devised by Ian Messiter and produced by David Hash. We present Kenneth Williams, Derek Nimmo, Clement Freud and Andree Melly in Just a Minute. And as the minute waltz fades away, here to tell you about it is our chairman, Nicholas Parsons.
Well, thank you very much indeed, and welcome once again to Just a Minute. Just to remind you of the rules, or perhaps just to remind ourselves of the rules, each of the players in this game are going to try and speak for just a minute on some subject that they know nothing about, which I will give them without hesitation, without repetition, and without deviation. In other words, they mustn't pause, they must keep going, they mustn't repeat themselves, and they mustn't stray from the point. Now, these rules are very simple and they're very elastic, and I have the impossible task of deciding when they are guilty and giving points. This you will see as we progress, so let's start the game straight off this week with Kenneth Williams. Kenneth, you seem surprised, but a delightful subject for you to start the show with this week. Here's the subject: what you see in the looking glass. Would you try and speak for just a minute on that subject, starting now?
Well, what I see in the looking glass is, of course, perfectly obvious to everybody. For I'm beautiful, simply beautiful. When a rose sees me coming, it wilts. Oh, my physical charms are so ample, I set Helen of Troy an example. That was, of course, said by somebody much greater than myself, but it roughly equates to my position when I am looking in the looking glass. Of course, this is obviously, it obviously could be.
Derek Nimmo, you buzz. Why? Challenged.
Hesitation.
Hesitation. Derek receives a point because it was a correct challenge, and he takes over the subject: what you see in the looking glass, starting now.
What I see in the looking glass as I gradually come up into the frame is first of all the top of my hair. Then I see my forehead, then my eyebrows and my eyes, then my nose, then my upper lip.
Clement Freud, why do you challenge?
Repetition of my.
You are entirely correct, Clement Freud. You have a point. You have 22 seconds for what you see in the looking glass, starting now.
When I look at myself in the looking glass and turn slightly to one side and look across, I see the bathroom cupboard, which contains bottles of aspirins, toothbrush, toothpaste, a shaving brush, and 4 different kinds of soap.
Andree Melly, you have challenged. Why?
Well, medicine cupboards usually have doors on them, in which case how can you see all these things?
Doors open.
Well,
Deviation, by the way.
A deviation. Well, I'm assuming the door is open, otherwise he couldn't have seen them. So, Andree, it was a very good try, but I'm afraid it's another point to Clement Freud with 5 seconds left for what you see in the looking glass, starting now.
Moving smartly to my left, I actually see myself, a good-looking man with...
Derek Nimmo managed to challenge just before the whistle went. What was your challenge, Jerry?
Well, deviation. He's not a good-looking man. He's singularly repugnant.
I don't often do this, but I'm not going to get involved in personal acrimony between 2 of these contestants. I'm going to ask the audience to judge whether they think Clement Freud is a good-looking man or not. If you think that Clement Freud is a good-looking man, will you please cheer? And if you don't, if you think the reverse, would you please boo? And would you all do it together now? Boo! Clement Freud, they all think you are a very good-looking man. And Derek Nimmo was wrong. Clement Freud has another point. He has 1 second left for what you see in the looking glass, starting now.
Blue eyes.
Well, as Clement Freud was speaking, as the whistle went, that meant he has another point, which, and I thought Derek's challenge was rather a clever one, but he doesn't get a point. Clement has a lead of 4 after the first round. Derek Nimmo has 1, and Andree, Melly and Kenneth Williams have yet to score. Clement Freud, will you begin this round, please, on plain speaking, starting now.
Plain speaking, as opposed to self-raising speaking, is to speak carefully in well-modulated tones without raising or lowering them from a certain octave which you have decided to pitch into at the beginning of your talk. I am a great exponent of this art because I speak probably more plainly than anybody else.
Derek Nimmo, why do you challenge?
Boastful.
Yes, but I'm afraid you can't get points for that.
Oh, well, can I also challenge on deviation?
No, it's too late now. I'm very sorry. All you managed to do is to give Clement Freud another point with 40 seconds left for plain speaking starting now.
And so I drone on.
Derek Nimmo.
Deviation, you see, because he says he's a plain speaker. It's already been established by the audience he's a particularly handsome speaker.
Very clever. Derek Nimmo, very clever. So you have the subject now with...
Utterly untrue. They said I was good-looking.
Oh, yeah.
Not handsome.
Clement Freud, you've had enough compliments paid to you for one day, so I'll just rest on your laurels for the minute. Let Derek Nimmo have the subject of plain speaking with 38 seconds left starting now.
Some people tend to mistake plain speaking for being downright rude. Such, I'm afraid, is...
Andree, Melly, you challenge.
Hesitation.
Hesitation, Andree. 33 seconds for plain speaking starting now.
I think it means telling the truth, the kind of truth that other people don't like to hear. And when they say you are a plain speaker, they mean that you are extremely rude. And...
Clement Freud, you challenge.
Hesitation.
Hesitation, indeed. Another point to Clement Freud, and 23 seconds for plain speaking, and you start now.
It does mean, in fact, that you speak your mind, whatever that is. You go up to a man and say, quite frankly, I think you are the most repulsive...
Kenneth Williams, you buzzed.
Yes.
You want to say something.
Yes, but he's confusing it with rudeness, you see, so it's deviation. Deviation entirely. Speaking plainly is speaking plainly. It's nothing to do with speaking rudely. Going up to a bloke and saying you're repulsive is disgraceful. I might have a great goiter hanging out, but I don't want people coming out saying it, do I? Not very nice. They've got air coming out of your ear hole, is it?
Are you talking on plain speaking at the
No
moment?
deviation, sorry.
I've never heard anybody justify their challenge with such a long discussion.
Sorry, yes.
I've just a minute, got another bonus.
Yes.
Anyway, all right, Kenneth, I will give you the point, and 12 seconds for plain speaking. See if you can do better than you've just done, starting now.
Thank you very much. Of course, plain speaking means speaking.
Clement Freud, you challenge.
Oh.
Deviations. Thank you very much.
He's a disgrace.
Why do you think thank you very much is not plain speaking?
It has nothing to do with the subject.
I was saying thank you for him for the point.
I think thank you very much is plenty of plain speaking. Kenneth Williams has another point, and he has 10 seconds for plain speaking, starting now.
Plain speaking means, of course, speaking in the plain, as opposed to on the edge of a mountain. And Bidaric omens were all composed on the edge of a mountain. Ruin seize the ruthless king.
Derek Nimmo, why do you challenge?
I've rather forgotten. I'm so sorry. No, I'm so sorry.
Kenneth Williams, you have another point, and you have 2 seconds left for plain speaking, starting now.
The Pindaric oaths composed on a mountainside, and they cried out, ruin! Oh, I've leapt into the lead now, and I... Come out with it, tell us.
Steady on. Remember where you are, Kenneth Williams.
Oh, sorry.
With some very unplain plain speaking, Kenneth Williams has gone into 3rd place. He's ahead of Andree Melly by 2 points, but he's 1 point behind Derek Nimmo and 3 points behind Clement Freud, who's still in the lead. Derek Nimmo, it's your turn to begin. A subject I hope you can talk about for 60 seconds, how to eat a crumpet. That's what the inventor of the game has chosen for you, Ian Messiter, and you start now.
I always eat my crumpets orally. I tend to take them and butter them, put them in front of the fire, and then slowly pop them between my teeth. And then I masticate away until they're...
Andree Melly, why do you challenge?
Deviation, it sounds revolting.
It may sound revolting, Andree, but it, I think, is probably the way most people eat their crumpets.
Pop
so
a crumpet.
We'll have to carry on with Derek Nimmo's his crumpet.
Pop a crumpet.
Sorry, Derek Nimmo and his hot crumpet for 43 seconds, starting now.
I've always been a great crumpet enthusiast. In fact, I recently made a record which is called Toast and Honey and Crumpet for Tea, in which I explain the art of eating this particular delicacy. It really is a very interesting thing, crumpet eating. You know, if you take a sugar...
Clement Freud, you've challenged what?
Hesitation.
Hesitation, alas. Clement Freud, how to eat a crumpet with 27 seconds left, starting now.
The ideal way is not as propounded by Mr. Derek Nimmo, but in fact you toast the crumpet first, and when it is hot and coloured on both sides, you then add...
Derek Nimmo, you...
Deviation. You see, he's not actually eating the crumpet. He's preparing it.
Give it to Derek Nimmo for another point and 14 seconds for how to eat a crumpet, starting now.
Get it firmly between your teeth. Dig in first your molars and then your wisdom teeth.
Kenneth Williams.
Repetition, he's already told us he masticated.
Repetition?
Of course, if he's already told us he's masticated, now he started gripping it between his teeth.
You mean you feel he's regurgitated it?
Of course! Well, you've got a larger vocabulary than I have. I can see that.
And you have fewer points than the others, so I'll give you one, Kenneth Williams. And 10 seconds left for how to eat a crumpet, starting now.
There is only one way to eat it. You put the napkin right...
Andree Melly.
To poop it.
What?
A tup-pup is a hesitation. All
Yes.
right, Andree, you have the subject of how to eat a crumpet for 6 seconds, starting now.
Sit down in front of the fire. Put the crumpet on a plate. Then take it between the thumb...
Derek Nimmo, you challenge. Why?
Well, again, she's preparing. She's putting it on a plate.
Yes.
Deviate.
That's the first time anybody's got 2 points in the same round on the same actual challenge. But well done, Derek. 1 point to you and 1 second to go for how to eat a crumpet, starting now.
When it reaches my stomach.
Derek has taken a lead of 2 points over Clement Freud. Kenneth Williams is still in 3rd place and Andree Melly in 4th place. And Kenneth Williams, it is your turn to begin paying the bills at the end of the month, Kenneth. Is this something you do? Well, anyway, talk for just a minute, if you can, on that subject, starting now.
Well, I will pay anything I owe at any time, never mind the end of the month, but I'm not paying bills. He can pay his own. On the other hand, when the account is presented, it is always a rather depressing incident. And I was once sent one from a certain store, which I shall not name, for 500 pints of milk and a mink coat. Well, obviously I don't walk around in a mink coat drinking 500 pints of milk. And so I rang them up and I said, here, I've had this bill, 500 pints of milk and a mink coat. And they said, what is the name, please? And I said, Kenneth C. Williams, my full name, Kenneth C. Williams. And they said, oh, it should have gone to Tennessee Williams. Of course, they could mix me up, you see.
Kenneth, we've stopped. You've been challenged.
Tennessee Williams. They got me mixed up because I was Kenneth C., which sounds like Tennessee Williams.
You get no bonus points.
Does he go around in mink coats with half a crate of milk?
Well, I'm not going to even ask what the challenge was, Clement Freud. You have a point definitely for that. Anyway, better let the listeners at home know. Why did you challenge?
Repetition.
Yes, repetition indeed was right. Plenty of C's and plenty of Kenneths and plenty of Williams. That's a bit too much, really, but there...
I thought it was lovely.
And so did the audience, Kenneth, but you weren't playing the game strictly.
Oh, well, I got carried away, honey. We're all human after all.
22 seconds left, you human. For Clement Freud, that's when he challenged. 22 seconds to go. Paying bills at the end of the month. Clement Freud, starting now.
Paying bills at the end of the month is sometimes a very dangerous thing because if you pay these bills too promptly, people have the opinion that you are bankrupt because bankrupts have to pay their bills actually on the due date. Otherwise, they can go to court.
Kenneth Williams, you challenge. What?
Oh, deviation, of course. We're discussing paying bills at the end of the month, not bankruptcy. If you were bankrupt, you wouldn't pay them at all, would you?
You could still be bankrupt by paying your bills or not. Is it
pay the bills at the end of the month is the question, love. Bankrupts couldn't pay them any time, could they?
Yes, dear, I know. But there we are.
It's deviation. What we're discussing.
Don't browbeat the chairman, Mr. Williams. Clement Freud has another point. I disagree with you, and there are 8 seconds left for him to paying bills at the end of the month, starting now.
January's...
Andree Melly.
Hesitation.
No, I don't think so. Clement Freud, you still have another point. 7 seconds for paying the bills at the end of the month, starting now.
January is a very good month to pay a bill at the end of because it has 31 days, and the day of 30...
Andree, your turn to begin. Kenneth, stop fooling around, please. Camping, that is the subject, Andree Melly. Can you talk for just a minute starting now?
This is something you either like doing or you don't. I've tried it once and I didn't really care for it. It's quite romantic sleeping out under the stars, but after a bit everything starts to smell of Macintosh and you're never quite warm enough and you find you don't wash as often as you used to. Boy Scouts, I believe, do it a great deal, in groups of 20 or more, and make campfires and sing round them, and it's not my kind of thing at all.
Derek Nimmo, your challenge, right?
Hesitation.
Yes, there was. Just a hesitation. I was so carried away with the sort of other ideas that were going in my mind with... Derek Nimmo, you have 33 seconds left for camping starting now.
Well, quite honestly, I've never been a great camper. I mean, there's all sorts of people going for it a great deal these days, really, but never appealed to me tremendously. I don't know why. I think it's really that I don't awfully care for the outdoor life. I mean, there by your wigwam with your little fire and your billy can to hand, it isn't really my way of spending a wet summer weekend.
Andree Melly, your challenge.
Hesitation.
Hesitation, indeed, yes. 12 seconds for camping, Andree, starting now.
You need a tent and some pegs to peg it down with, and tins of food and a tin opener, and a box of matches so as you can make a fire.
Well, as Andree was speaking as the whistle went, she gains another point, and that point puts her just ahead of Kenneth Williams, who's sunk back to 4th place, alas.
I've sunk? Oh.
Clement Freud is 1 point ahead of Derek Nimmo, who is in 2nd place. Clement Freud, your turn to begin. The cult of nudism. There's a good subject to talk about for just a minute, starting now.
The cult of nudism is one that doesn't necessarily involve taking off all your clothes. You can be a nudist wearing a vest and pants, a shirt and collar and tie, a suit with trousers, a waistcoat and a vest. And deep down, mentally, you are still a nudist because you feel that you would like to be rid of these clothes. But suppose you want to go in for nudism a little more actively, then it is essential to strip yourself of all garments. Can you stop Nimmo looking at me? Nimmo's looking at me. I won't have it. I want a 5-minute rest.
He wanted to be stopped.
Andree Melly, listeners, challenged because Clement wanted to be stopped because he felt...
A hesitation coming on.
No, he felt his hesitation coming on because Kenneth Williams was looking at him in a very peculiar way. Andree Melly did the honours for Clement Freud, and she has the subject of the cult of nudism with 32 seconds left, starting now.
There was a very interesting programme on television on this subject. I was watching one programme turned over, and there was this lady with nothing on, frying...
Kenneth Williams, you'll challenge twice.
Deviation.
Why?
The cult of nudism is the subject, not watching television.
Was it?
That is perfectly true.
What
were you going to say, Andree?
It was a teleprogram on the subject.
Yes, but it was about nudism, actually. I don't think, and it wasn't called the cult of nudism, so Kenneth Williams has a point, and he has the subject with 25 seconds left, starting now.
The cult of nudism is to do with the worship of nakedness. And what more adorable thing could you have to worship? Here we have all hypocrisy swept away, all the foppery, all the dressing up, all the decoration, the embellishment, all the rubbish, in other words, is gone.
Clement's challenge you. Of what?
Too many alls.
Well, when Kenneth Williams goes in, he goes all in, doesn't he? Anyway, Clement Freud, you have another point for the cult of nudism, and you have 7 seconds left, starting now.
I once went to North Middlesex to be...
Derek Nimmo, you challenge, why?
He's talking about a visit to North Middlesex.
A clever challenge, Derek Nimmo, another point, and you have 4 seconds left for the cult of nudism, starting now.
Take 'em off, I cry. Away with those.
Clement Freud, you challenge, why?
Hesitation.
Well, you have to pause for a moment while you take them off.
Actually, I think he paused because the audience laughed. It was difficult to judge it, so I'm afraid I must give it to Derek Nimmo, and 2 seconds left for the cult of nudism, starting now.
Off come my shoes, then my socks.
So the nudist scene has put Derek Nimmo into a small lead of 1 over Clement Freud, who still has a commanding lead over Andree Melly, who's 1 point ahead of Kenneth Williams. Derek Nimmo, it's your turn to begin. Public relations. But just talk for 60 seconds if you can, starting now.
Ronald Kershaw Sudbury Hardy of Port Meadow, Totnes, Devon, is one of my public relations. He is a local worthy, a keen sailor, a scout commissioner. Beatrice Mason, who lives at 44 East Athos Avenue, Flintshire, North Wales, is also a public relation of mine. She plays bridge. She is a keen member of the local Conservative Association. I have a sister, Valerie Williams, her name is by her husband, who lives...
Andree Melly, you can...
Hesitation.
Hesitation is right, yes. 25 seconds left for public relations. Andree Melly, you start now.
This is one of these mysterious subjects, PR officers, I believe that some of them are called, who try to publicize for you whatever you want to have publicized.
Clement Freud.
Hesitation,
yes, a repetition of publicized, too. Clement Freud, you have 14 seconds left for public relations, starting now.
There are people who have no private relations who are forced to go in for this in a professional way, and they appoint a gentleman to project their image to the world at large, saying, Clement Freud...
Derek Nimmo, you challenge why?
Hesitation.
Yes, indeed. 3 seconds left for public relations. Derek Nimmo, starting now.
Aunt Gertrude, Uncle Charles.
Clement Freud, you challenge why?
Repetition of the telephone directory. Aunt Gertrude is a private relation, you see.
No, she has a very public life.
She's not a public relation, because she's not everybody's Aunt Gertrude.
I'm going to put it to the audience. I can't decide between public relations, whether if they're private relations and they become public. Do you think that Clement Freud's challenge is justified? And if you do, will you please cheer? And if you don't, will you please boo? And will you all please do it together now? Clement Freud, they're on your side today, without a doubt. You have another point. You have 2 seconds left for public relations, starting now.
In Fleet Street, there's a lot of...
So, the public relations has put Clement Freud into commanding lead equal with Derek Nimmo, with Andree Melly trailing in 3rd place and Kenneth Williams trailing in 4th place. And this, alas, is the last subject. Kenneth Williams, it is your turn to begin. You'd like to put your shoes on, I'm sure.
I've got bad feet now.
Well, the subject is holiday brochures. Bad feet or not, maybe you can think of one that'll do your feet good, but otherwise, will you please speak for 60 seconds on holiday brochures starting now?
Holiday brochures are always the most deceptive thing in this world. They choose a day when the sun's shining, the beach looks really lovely and there are none of these nasty jellyfish around. And of course, everyone sitting there looks delighted with the whole place. But when you get there, the sun's never like that, neither do the hotels, and they all say all in. They don't tell you about the extras. There's loads of extras. If you want a bath, it's extra. I mean, if you want the meal, it's extra. If you want the manager...
Derek Nimmo, why do you say?
Repetition, too many extras.
Too much hesitation, I would have thought. All right, 32 seconds left, Derek, for holiday brochures starting now.
The cult of nudism has provided a lot of very interesting holiday brochures. I remember going down to Bournemouth last Sunday. Oh, I've stopped.
Hesitation, indeed, yes. 24 seconds left for holiday brochures. Clement Freud starting now.
In my opinion, the best holiday brochures are those put out by the Hampshire County Council, and they put them out for Gasforth, Southampton and Portsmouth. The beaches are beautiful, the sand is golden.
Kenneth Williams, you challenge, why?
No, there's no such place as Gasforth.
Gasforth? No, it does sound very peculiar.
Yes. Have you heard it? I've never heard it. Gasforth.
All right. 11 seconds left for your Gasforth challenge. And holiday brochures are the subject, and you start now.
Yes, well, as I say, they're hopelessly...
Clement Freud.
What's happening now? I'm sorry, I was mystified. What?
I'll tell you what happened. You were challenged by Clement Freud.
Oh, sorry.
That's right, Clement Freud.
If he's already said it, it's repetition. He said, as I said.
Oh, how extremely clever. All right, did you say as I said?
I'm afraid I was guilty.
All right,
I'm in the position of being...
Well, honesty... All right, Kenneth, you're very honest, and we appreciate it very much. You're 9 seconds left for holiday brochures. Clement Freud starting now.
Hotels in holiday resorts are tabulated into classes to which they adhere, like first class, which means that every room has a bathroom.
Kenneth Williams, you challenge.
Deviation. We're
What?
discussing the holiday brochure, not the classifications of hotels.
All right, Kenneth Williams, with 2 seconds left for holiday brochures, you start now.
Holiday brochures are glossy. They're lovely. They look all
Well, I don't know whether you were, but I was finding that last round absolutely tentatively, because with Clement Freud and Derek Nimmo being equal, obviously one of them had to win on that round. And it happened to be Clement Freud who got the extra point. Let me just tell you that Andree Melly unfortunately came last, 1 point behind Kenneth Williams, who with his holiday brochures leapt into third place. Derek Nimmo kept definitely well in second place, but Clement Freud by 1 point is this week's winner.
Chairman of Just a Minute was Nicholas Parsons. The program was devised by Ian Messiter and produced by David Hash. Present Kenneth Williams, Derek Nimmo, Clement Freud and Betty Marsden in Just a Minute. And as the minute waltz fades away, here to tell you about it is our chairman, Nicholas Parsons.
Thank you very much indeed, and welcome once again to Just a Minute. May I just remind you of the rules? I'm going to ask each one of them to speak in turn on some unlikely subject which they know nothing about for just a minute, without hesitation, without repetition, and without deviation. I think the scoring will become obvious as we proceed, so let us start this particular game with Derek Nimmo. Derek, striking a fresh acquaintance. A good subject, and just a minute if you can talk on it, starting now.
Well, what I generally do is I prepare my equipment first of all. I tend to favor a Malacca cane. I take it out in the morning, make sure it's nice and flexible, and then I go out into the street, and it's curious, you know, every time you turn a corner, you come across a tolerably fresh acquaintance. If they're not fresh, of course, then you can make them fresh by baiting them with various well-chosen remarks. Having got them suitably game, then you take hold of your Malacca cane and strike them several times across the face.
Clement Freud, you challenge, why?
Several times as repetition.
Very clever, Clement. 29 seconds for striking a fresh acquaintance, starting now.
I have very few acquaintances who are other than fresh, so that my acquaintance has to be evilly...
Derek Nimmo, you challenge, why?
Yes.
Hesitation, indeed. You have a point, Derek. You have 22 seconds for striking a fresh acquaintance, starting now.
Well, I generally join the Lonely Hearts Club. I pay 17 and sixpence to this fund, and they put my name into a little ballot box, and they pull out a chum for me. They send me a little letter, and I go and meet this chum. And when I see this person, perhaps a female, I say, "Hello, Mary," if that happens to be her name. "How are you today?" And she says, "Is your name Derek?" And I say, "Yes." She says, "How charming to meet you." And I say, "It's delightful to meet you too."
Well, as Derek Nimmo was speaking when the whistle went, then he gains another point. Betty Marsden, your turn to begin, and here we go. What to do when you've ricked your back? Would you try and talk for just a minute on that subject, starting now?
Well, when you have ricked your back, the very thing you must not do is attempt to lie down, because this makes it very painful, plus the fact that it is impossible to get in that position. For as one bends over, as a human hairpin, and the pain shoots from here up to one's head, one finds great difficulty in even lifting an arm. Well, here we are then, unable to lie down because the pain is so tremendous, unable to stand up. So the only thing one can do on this occasion is to get a kind husband or friend to undo a door, take it off its hinges and lean it in a very, very difficult way, but a slight angle, like that.
Clement Freud, you challenge, why?
An angle is deviation.
Oh! It may be deviation, but it is not devious, and I think, therefore, I am justified in giving Betty Marsden another point. It was a very clever challenge, but there are 18 seconds left for you, Betty, what to do when you've ricked your back, starting now.
Then...
Derek Nimmo.
Well, hesitation.
16 seconds, Derek, for what to do when you've ricked your back, starting now.
I turn on my tummy immediately, Andree. I lie there and I put my arms out akimbo, my legs out akimbo, and then I put a little...
Kenneth Williams, you've challenged.
Repetition.
Too much akimbo? Your akimbo got you in trouble there.
Yes.
Kenneth, 9 seconds left for you to talk about what to do when you've ricked your back, and you start now.
The obvious thing to do is to go straight to a bone setter, a good old-fashioned man who knows his job, who indeed has got in the surgery there the actual skeleton showing... Oh, thank you. Yes. Oh, I've leapt into the lead, haven't I? I've leapt into it.
Alongside Clement, Freud and Derek Nimmo. Clement, Freud, it's your turn to begin. Dentists, something everybody has experience about. Will you try and talk for just a minute, starting now?
Dentists are members of a professional class who tend to wear white coats for a reason which I've never yet found out, who do no...
Derek Nimmo, you challenged.
Hesitation, I'm afraid.
Yes, it was. It's
What a shame.
Yes, it was, because something like that... Obviously, he's got some very painful experience at the dentist. He couldn't go on. 51 seconds, Derek, for dentists, starting now.
Open your mouth, Derek O'Fruit, he says. I open it, and there he looks at my molar, and then he produces a long, nasty instrument with a needle on the end, which spins round in a particular revolting fashion, and he plunges this deep into my tooth and fills me with most alarming and horrid pain. Then he gets a little scraper, scrapes round the edges, pulls away all the stuffing from inside, all the muck and rubbish and so on, and then puts into it some rather nasty grey or black stuff, or if I'm feeling particularly extravagant, gold stuff as well. Perhaps...
Clement Freud, why do you challenge?
Hesitation.
Oh.
No, I don't think so. He was in full flood. Derek Nimmo, you have 15 seconds left to carry on with dentists, starting now.
I lean back in my chair, and he gives me a little glass of pink scented liquid. I swish it round in my mouth, and I swallow it or spit it out into a little basin beside me. I do. He takes away a little piece of paper from round my neck, throws it into the waste paper basket. Hello, old fruit.
Well, Derek's long discourse on his dentist, however unpleasant it may have sounded, has put him in a definite lead over the other two gentlemen who are both leading Betty Marsden by 2 points. Kenneth Williams, it's your turn to begin. The Big Dipper. If you haven't been on it, imagine you have, and talk for just a minute, starting now.
The Big Dipper can, of course, mean someone who dips very largely into their pocket for charity, and that is something I'm not known for. On the other hand, because it can refer to the scenic railway. And quite recently, I was asked what kind of travel I preferred, and I named this kind of travel, and they put me on one for nothing. A photographer was put in the front to photograph me, and I was in the back seat, careering up and down that marvellous scenic railway at Battersea. Well, I was in a state of exhilaration, I can tell you. I was screaming with joy, because I love all the bits where you go right down. Oh, I was carried away, and some of the photographs when they came out of me on the scenic railway were a joy to behold. The mouth was wide open. It looked so...
Derek Nimmo, why do you challenge?
Well, his deviation, you talk about his trips on the scenic railway rather than the Big Dipper.
I think the Big Dipper is part of a scenic railway. I think it could be described as such. So, Kenneth, I'm still with you and your joy. Carry on for 15 seconds, the Big Dipper starting now.
And as we came down the last stretch and I got off breathless and almost exhausted, the gentleman running it said to me, "Here, are you on the telly?" Because I knew my face straight away, you see. And he said, "It's unusual to see someone like you on
Derek Nimmo, why do you challenge?
Deviation. You're talking about his chums coming up to him and asking for his autograph and things.
Yes, I think he's got a little bit off the Big Dipper now.
Oh, shame.
No.
Shame.
Derek Nimmo has 2 seconds left for the Big Dipper starting now.
I have a Big Dipper which I keep stuffed in a glass case.
The interesting thing about this game is if you can manage to challenge someone just before the 60 seconds is up and take the subject over, you automatically gain a point because you manage to keep going when the whistle goes. So Derek Nimmo's got 2 more points, which gives him a definite lead over everybody else.
But you could make it half a point if you wanted to, couldn't you?
I can make it no points at all if I wanted to.
Why don't you do that?
That's the power that I have, Kenneth.
Because I never win.
Kenneth, you're getting all the audience sympathy. When I next appeal to them, you see what happens. Betty Marsden, it's your turn to begin. Slang, starting now.
Slang? Well, these are very small words used for very long words. For instance, one runs down the apples and goes round the Johnny, and one pushes down the old Scrumpy. All that sort of thing. And everybody varders you see, and your eeks are shining and your lallies are weak by the time you push down all this Scrumpy. And the whole thing is a language understood only by deep friends of yours to whom you've written small notes in this particular language. Now, the word S-L-A-N-G, the one that I am speaking about, is very interesting because there is a song about it called Old Slang Syne, which we use every New Year's Eve for everybody's benefit. And all those little Scottish words that, we love, och and I, they all mean something very, very interesting indeed, but I can't possibly tell you about...
Yes, 60
I can't
seconds
believe
flat.
it.
Well done, Betty Marsden, the visitor to the game, playing against the three regulars, and Betty has managed to speak for 60 seconds without being interrupted, so I think she deserves a bonus point. Well done, Betty Marsden. It's brought you equal with Clement Freud, who were both 1 point behind Kenneth Williams, who was still a little way behind Derek Nimmo. Clement Freud, Utopia. Will you talk to us, if you can, for 60 seconds on this subject, starting now?
Utopia, I seem to remember, is a rather boring poem written by Sir Thomas More in about 1516 about an island on which all the right things happen to the right people. And the word has now been taken up in everyday language to...
Derek Nimmo, you challenge.
Hesitation.
Hesitation indeed. Utopia, Derek Nimmo, with 42 seconds left, starting now.
I went to this pub in Devon, you see, and I was standing against the bar. And a man came towards me. He's an old gentleman with long grey hair and a big hat and sucking a straw in his mouth.
Clement Freud, why do you challenge?
All that time without Utopia. Deviation.
May I just...
Very rapidly. Can you justify very rapidly?
Well, he came out to me and I was standing at the bar and he said, "Oh, Utopia." And I said, "Okay."
All right. We'll give it to you, Derek. You have another point. You have 32 seconds left for Utopia, starting now.
It's what I'm always looking for. Every day when I get up in the morning, I always think, will I find Utopia today? I never do, but I always keep trying, I think that's one of the important things in life.
Repetition.
Of what?
Always keeps trying.
Yes, well...
No, not repetition. I said it once.
It wasn't that. It's the implication of the word, if you always keep trying, it must be repetitious.
Must be.
Which is a very clever challenge, and I think it does deserve a point. And Clement Freud has gained it. He has 25 seconds left for the subject. Utopia, starting now.
It is now described as something which everybody's looking for, but nobody ever finds. And cuckoo land in the House of Commons is the sort of meaning that Utopia has. Look where one likes, one doesn't find this euphoria among things that...
Kenneth Williams, you challenge.
Well, it was either hesitation or mispronunciation. Euphoria.
Yeah. I'm very sorry, Kenneth. I think it was all
What is
accurate.
the word?
Euphoria.
Well, excitement.
Euphoria? What does that mean? I've never heard it.
When Kenneth Williams goes on the Big Dipper, that's a touch of euphoria.
You didn't say euphoria.
He did, Clement.
Well, that's a disgrace. You definitely hesitated. You mispronounced it. And now you're trying to get
You
out of it.
cannot change your challenge, Kenneth. There's 9 seconds left for Clement Freud to go on with Utopia, starting now.
It is a lovely vision. The island where everything happens that should happen, where men are beautiful, where women are willing...
Betty Marsden, you challenge.
Hesitation.
Hesitation, Betty. You have 2 seconds left for Utopia, starting now.
So I wear it on my
Clement
head.
Freud, you challenge. Why?
Hesitation.
Right, Clement Freud, you have
I
another point.
didn't.
You have 1 second.
Hesitation.
Clement Freud for Utopia, starting now.
Oh, yes.
Wait a minute, no. Derek Nimmo got in first. Derek
Hesitation.
Nimmo. Hesitation indeed. Right, a point to Derek Nimmo. 1 second left for Utopia, Derek, starting now.
Hello.
Kenneth Williams, your turn to begin this time. My favourite pudding, starting now.
My favourite pudding is Christmas pudding. pudding. And the best ones I have actually are due to a recipe which my Aunt Edith has, and she makes them like a dream. The only trouble is she does tend to put in these silver things, and someone or two of my fill-ins once or twice got caught on these, and I have had some very painful experiences because my teeth are particularly sensitive to any metal or metallic substance coming into contact with them. Next to Christmas pudding, of course, there's cabinet pudding. Now, Mrs. Wayne of Bicester holds the recipe.
Clement Freud, you've challenged. Why?
Deviation.
Why?
My favourite pudding, and he's now specified that there was another pudding.
Yes, that's perfectly correct. Well done,
yes,
Clement
he's
Freud.
right.
Sir Clement Freud, you have a point, and you have 23 seconds for my favourite pudding, starting now.
My favourite pudding is bread and butter pudding, which is made with bread, butter, eggs, sugar, cream. You cake...
Hesitation indeed. 15 seconds for my favourite pudding, starting now.
My favourite pudding is known as black pudding because of the colour that it bears. It is made from all sorts of indescribable things like congealed blood.
Clement Freud.
Deviation.
Why?
It's just made from congealed blood.
Not only.
Not all sorts of indescribable things.
There are other things besides.
Well, you can make a black pudding.
Outside,
it depends how you make it. I'm sure yours, being a very pure black pudding, would be made that way.
I think it's revolting. I don't want to sit here and listen to a load of filth. Good gracious, I think it's disgraceful. You should have ruled him out.
Well, look, Clement Freud, can you, as a cook, I can't argue with you over culinary matters, can you justify the fact, is it really only made of...
I'm sorry, actually the skin round the outside.
But what are those little white pieces?
Little white pieces.
What are the little white pieces, Clement Freud?
Turning
Come
me
on.
off.
I am not going to argue with Clement Freud over food. I let the audience judge about food with Clement Freud. You judge it. Do you think that Derek Nimmo was correct in his description? And if you do, will you cheer? And if you think he was incorrect, will you all boo? And will you all do it now?
Boo.
Derek Nimmo, they like your black pudding better than Clement Freud, so you have another point. You have 4 seconds left for my favourite pudding, starting now.
Well, next time I have one, I'm going to share it with the audience because they're so kind and sweet. And I shall put bacon...
Clement Freud, why?
Deviation.
Deviation,
yes.
indeed. I quite agree. Clement Freud, you've got the point after all. You have 2 seconds for my favourite pudding, starting now.
Butter the bread very generously and...
Oh, well, there we are. Betty Marsden, your turn to begin. My most unforgettable character, starting now.
His name was Mr. Morrison, Rover Morrison. He was called after dogs because he was a veterinary surgeon.
Kenneth Williams.
Deviation? What's it got to do with dogs?
He's a veterinary surgeon.
Well, he...
Called after dogs.
He was called Rover Morrison.
Have you never called after a dog? Oh, Rover, come here. No, I'm sorry. You know, he was a man. He sounds a very unforgettable character to me, Kenneth. I'm very sorry. But don't look so hurt, please, Kenneth. Betty has another point. She has 53 seconds left for my most unforgettable character, starting now.
A veterinary surgeon, Rover Morrison.
Kenneth Williams.
Repetition.
My most unforgettable character, Kenneth, with 50 seconds, starting now.
My most unforgettable character was a character who came up to me in an hotel and said, would you come over and help me because I'm out here for the waters? And I said, what do you mean, the waters? And he said, I broke my leg and I've come here for the waters. You're that thermal.
Derek Nimmo.
Well, we've had the waters 3 times.
Yes, we've bitch too much.
Good job I am.
Derek Nimmo, it's your turn now with 35 seconds for my most unforgettable character, starting now.
I met him, first of all, 45 kilometres outside Addis Ababa. I was walking down a little gully, and there, at the end of this little road, I saw a man with a green hat on and fur right round his...
Clement Freud. Hesitation, indeed, yes. 21 seconds, Clement. My most unforgettable character, starting now.
My most unforgettable character came up to me in the Odeon Theatre in Leicester Square and said, look at me well for a long time, watch my nose, my eyes and my ears, because I want you to remember me for the rest of your life. And I looked at him most carefully and said, yes, you beautiful specimen of humanity. Never have I seen anyone as remarkably accurately...
Oh, no, Derek challenged just before.
Just that little hesitation. We'd rather sport it for Mr. Freud. What a shame to hesitate just before he finished. Never mind.
Well, try, Derek Nimmo.
Yes,
You're
yes.
in the lead.
So,
and you can
what do I do?
You're in the lead and you can afford to be magnanimous.
And the subject's unforgettable character. Now,
Derek, you're trying very hard, but you're trying us too hard. I'm afraid Clement Freud has another point for that challenge with 1 second left for my most unforgettable character starting now.
Goodness me, he said.
Well, I said you could afford to be generous, Derek, because in spite of that little bit of extra that Clement Freud got there, he's still in second place. And Clement Freud, it is your turn to begin. Automatic dishwashers. Will you try and talk for 60 seconds on that subject starting now?
The point about making a dishwasher automatic.
Derek.
I'm afraid an awfully unfortunate hesitation, wasn't it?
It was unfortunate.
Hesitation?
Well, muck up of the word.
Hardly is.
Well, it's a very fluent fluff.
A fluff.
You couldn't call that.
Yes, well, all right. Your fluff gets Derek Nimmo a point on this definite occasion, and he definitely gets him a point on this occasion, and there are 51 seconds for automatic dishwashers, Derek, starting now.
I have been married 13 years, and ever since that moment I've become an automatic
Kenneth,
dishwasher.
Deviation.
Why do you think it's
Deviation. Being married has nothing to do with dishwashers.
Kenneth Williams, if you were married, you'd know how essential it was for any married man to have an automatic dishwasher. That most husbands are automatic dishwashers. So, Derek Nimmo, automatic dishwashers starting now.
I bought this particular machine in a well-known general store in the Brompton Road. I climbed 3 flights of stairs, met a man in a white jacket who was terribly kind and showed me the way to the department where I could buy one. And I said, could I have, please, an automatic dishwasher? He said, I would be delighted to serve you, sir. I would be absolutely thrilled to sell you one of these machines. So I said, can I take it away with me? He said, of course, well, why not? Why not? So I gave him my check.
Clement Freud, why do you challenge?
Repetition.
What?
Why not? Why not?
Very clever. All right, Clement Freud, 25 seconds for automatic dishwashers starting now.
You put the soap in at one end, and a number of brushes and lathers revolve around the teacups, the saucers, and a small basket takes the silverware.
Derek Nimmo, why do you challenge?
Boring. Very, very boring.
But, alas, accurate. So it means that Clement Freud has another point, and there are 17 seconds for automatic dishwashers, Clement, starting now.
There's a special compartment that takes glasses and wares of any kind like that. Some of it in crystal, and much of it goes dirty at one end and comes out clean at the other, because this is why it is automated. My mother had one of these.
Derek Nimmo, why do you challenge?
Hesitation is grinding to a terrible halt now, isn't it?
He
dreariness slobbering down, one dreary word tumbling so very
Derek,
sadly.
I disagree. He may have been getting terribly dreary sounding, but he was keeping going, alas. So, there are three...
Lovely, I was throbbing.
Yes.
I love all that.
And you were sitting next to him, weren't you?
Yes.
There are 3 seconds left for automatic dishwashers, starting now.
An uncle gave one of these machines to an aunt.
Kenneth Williams, it is your turn to begin. Things I keep under my bed. That is the subject that Ian Messiter has thought of for you to talk upon for just a minute, starting now.
The things I keep under my bed are only kept there on certain occasions. That is to say, they are not there permanently. If I have the flu, then I do tend to have the box of tissues underneath the bed handy with the cough mixture or whatever medicine I happen to be taking at the time. On the other hand, I frequently do have under the bed an alarm clock. Now, the reason I have the alarm clock under the bed as opposed to a table beside the bed is because I haven't got a table beside the bed. So, when the alarm is to wake me in the morning...
Clement Freud, why do...
3 alarms.
You're definitely right. There are 3 alarms there. So, Clement, you have the subject. You have 26 seconds for the things I keep under my bed, starting now.
The most predominant thing I keep under my bed is a carpet, which is of hair cord and...
Kenneth Williams, why do you...
Deviation. How can a carpet predominate?
You obviously haven't seen Clement Freud's carpet. Clement Freud, you have another point. 21 seconds for the things I...
It's a huge, bulging, angry carpet that predominates all over the bed and on
Derek
it...
Nimmo, why do you challenge?
We've had the carpet twice.
That's indeed right, yes. Derek Nimmo, you have another point. You have 17 seconds for the things I keep under my bed, starting now.
I have under my bed, and it's absolutely true, a wonderful Victorian Chinese potty.
Clement Freud.
Hesitation.
There was a hesitation before his potty. I'm not surprised.
Always hesitates before one's potty.
He's a disgrace, isn't he? All that congealed blood and now potties. I think it's disgraceful. I'm here to listen to all this.
12 seconds, Clement Freud, for you. Things I keep under my bed starting now.
I was recently given a medicine chest by my wife, which was placed under the bed, which is a...
Derek Nimmo, why do you challenge?
I'm afraid he said bed again. You see, that's 3 times he said bed, you see.
The things I keep under my bed, yes, but this does come in the title of the subject, so I think
We
he's
were
all
allowed
right.
3 times.
There are 8 seconds for things I keep under my bed, Clement Freud, starting now.
And a thermometer is the most exciting thing that there is in the medicine chest. A beautiful mercury instrument which starts at 96.
Betty Marsden, you challenged just as the thing went. Why?
Deviation.
Why?
He was talking about what was inside his medicine chest, not what was under the bed.
Well done, Betty. You have another
The
point.
medicine chest was under the bed.
Yeah, no, you went on and on about what was in the medicine chest and that it was closed.
You're trailing a lot, Betty. I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt with another point, and 1 second left for things I keep under my bed starting now.
Things.
Clement Freud, you got in first.
Yes.
Why?
Hesitation.
Well done. half a second for things I keep under my bed starting now.
Toothbrush.
I'm afraid that was it, definitely the... So, let me mention first of all that Betty Marsden and Kenneth Williams were both third together. They both did, I thought, very well, particularly Betty, who hasn't played the game as often. Derek Nimmo was a very good second, but this week's winner by 2 points was Clement Freud.
The chairman of Just a Minute was Nicholas Parsons. The program was devised by Ian Messiter and produced by David Hash. We present Kenneth Williams, Derek Nimmo, Clement Freud, and Lucy Bartlett in Just a Minute. And as the minute waltz fades away, here to tell you about it is our chairman, Nicholas Parsons.
Thank you very much indeed, and welcome once again to Just a Minute. To remind you of the rules, in case you may not remember them, we sometimes don't. Every person here must speak on some unlikely subject that I will give them for just a minute, without hesitation, without repetition, and without deviation. And this way they will gain points or lose them, and this, I hope, will become obvious as we play the game. And Derek Nimmo, let us this week begin with you. Derek, the subject is dog watch. Would you try and speak for just a minute on that subject, starting now?
My favourite one, really, is the poodle turnip. I often think this really is perhaps the most useful one in many ways. What you do is, you see, you strap it onto the left foreleg, and so that the poodle can see it when it turns its head towards this particular instrument. Another kind, of course, is the Alsatian paw clock.
Clement Freud, you challenge. Why?
Hesitation.
Hesitation, indeed. As I have upheld your challenge, that means you gain a point. You have 37 seconds left for dog watch, starting now.
This is a naval term signifying something you do in front of the mast.
Derek Nimmo, why do you challenge?
Deviation's got nothing to do with what
It sounded extremely devious. I quite agree with you. All right, dog watch goes back to you, Derek Nimmo, and there are 34 seconds left, starting now.
It's a split watch, actually, of 2 hours, between 4 o'clock...
Lucy Bartlett, you've challenged.
Well, I thought he hesitated a bit.
You're quite right. I quite agree with you. He did hesitate. Lucy, you have 30 seconds left for dog watch, starting now. Derek Nimmo, you challenge. Why?
Hesitation.
Hesitation, but it was totally unfair. She has just joined us. She's just about to open her mouth for the first time, so Lucy has a point, and she carries on with
always
the
lets
dog
her
watch.
win because she's pretty.
And a jolly good reason for doing it as well. Lucy, the dog watch, 29 seconds, starting now.
The dog watch is something that you buy in a children's shop.
Derek Nimmo, you challenge.
Well, hesitation.
Hesitation indeed that
I
time.
do beg
Derek,
pardon.
there are 26 seconds for dog watch, starting now.
It's 2 hours, you see. The normal watch is 4 hours long. Well, it's between 4 o'clock and
Clement
6...
Freud. Hesitation. Never had so many hesitations in one round before. 22 seconds for dog watch Clement Freud starting now.
Many people argue that giving a watch to a dog is a pointless exercise. But this is not, in fact, so, because dogs need to know the time quite as much as anybody else. A poodle on regular feeds every 6 hours would have no idea of when to take his meals unless another animal of the same sort had a watch with hands that...
Derek Nimmo, you challenge.
Well, too many watches, I'm afraid.
Yes, that's right. Yes, indeed there were. Far too many watches. There are 2 seconds left for dog watch Derek starting now.
And the second one is between 6 o'clock and 8 o'clock.
As Derek Nimmo was speaking when the whistle went, which told us that 60 seconds up, he gains another point, which puts him in the lead after the end of the first round. And Kenneth Williams has yet to score.
Ah, but wait, just wait.
We are waiting eagerly, Kenneth. It is your turn to begin this time.
Oh!
And something that you've managed to do, I think, on this particular game. Its subject is how I get my own way. Would you try and talk for just a minute on that subject starting now?
Well, funny though it may seem, I don't always get my own way because I'm a particularly selfless kind of person, but I do know how to get my own way on certain occasions. Now, take the example of when 2 people are consulting the list and one says, well, I'd like to do so-and-so tonight, and you say, no, I don't want to do that. The thing to do is when they say, I'd like to do so-and-so, you say, oh, all right, if you want to. And they say, well, don't you think it's good? Say, well,
Clement Freud, why do you challenge?
I suppose, but...
Clement Freud has challenged you, Kenneth. Excuse me.
The hesitation was quite deliberate. I was showing you.
However deliberate it may have been, it is still a hesitation.
Well, I think it's just great.
Clement Freud has a point. He has 31 seconds for how I get my own way starting now.
I hit people. I find this is by far the best way, and if they try in any way to prevent me from having it as I want it, I get a stick and I beat them about the head and the face, causing them grievous bodily harm, at which point they say, you're
Kenneth
quite
Williams,
right.
Mispronunciation, he said grievous. There's no such word.
Well, I thought you were going to challenge him for deviation.
Oh, deviation, then, yes, that's right.
Kenneth, 16 seconds. How I get my own way starting now.
And this occurred with me in Venice, and I said I wanted to see this church, St. Mark's, and they said no, they wanted the gondola ride. So I pushed them right into the canal. And it was rather funny, actually, because they'd always been singing this song about waltzing in Venice, where you do fall in the canal, you know, waltzing against the
Derek Nimmo, why do you challenge?
Repetition, 2 canals.
Yes, it was lovely canals. It was very horrid, wasn't it? 2 seconds for how I get my own way, Derek Nimmo starting now.
I crawl towards the person fawning.
Well, as Derek Nimmo got in just before the whistle, he gained not only 1 point for his challenge, but 1 point for when the whistle went. Clement Freud, it is your turn to begin. What to tell the children about the birds and the bees? A subject that we've all talked about at different times, but Clement, can you talk now for 60 seconds, starting now?
The best thing to do in this case is to take your children to see a film in which the most Swedish and sexual things take place. And then when you get them...
Kenneth Williams, why
It's a deviation. There's nothing to do with birds and bees, films and sex.
I just think it sounds very devious, Kenneth. I quite agree. Those films are devious, and there are 50 seconds left for you to talk about what to tell the children about the birds and the bees, starting now.
You tell the children about the birds and the bees quite simply by going out with them and demonstrating. Show them the bee hives and show them the birds. And the best way you can show them birds is by being a tree yourself. Stick a load of branches in you and make yourself look like a tree, and then stand absolutely still, and then the birds come right up to you and eat out of your hand. I've had them eating out of my hand. Dressed up
Clement Freud, by repetition of out of his hand. You got so carried away. You shouldn't have had so much in your hand, should you? Clement Freud, what to tell the children about the birds and the bees? There are 25 seconds left, starting now.
Coming back from the cinema, I say to my children, you remember what those nasty people on the screen did? Well, the birds and the bees do roughly the same sort of thing. And the children say, oh, thank you very much. We'd always wondered how they went about it.
Derek Nimmo, why do you challenge?
Hesitation, I'm afraid.
Oh, I don't think so. No. It was debatable, but I don't think so. Clement Freud, there are 12 seconds for what to tell the children about the birds and the bees, starting now.
You also tell them the color of the birds and the bees. The bees, I tell them, are black and gold and fly about making a small buzzing noise, whereas the birds are any sort of color and have a beak and 2 eyes.
Clement Freud has now crept up after that round. He's only 1 point behind our leader, who is still Derek Nimmo. Derek, my favorite sport. Would you try and talk for 60 seconds on this subject, starting now?
My favourite sport is Clement Freud. What a jolly old sport he is, I say. Often I'd see him, out in the park, running along in rather nasty long pants and a striped vest with number 7 on the back on a summer's morning, and he's running down the road, and I say, what a favourite fellow he is. What an awfully jolly old sport. Sometimes I see him stop, though, and leap onto a horse, because he's full of all sorts of sporting activities, because he rides, He rides terribly well.
Clement Freud, why do you challenge?
Repetition keeps riding.
Yes, he rode more than once. Clement Freud, 34 seconds for my favourite sport, starting now.
My favorite sport is riding, which will surprise you a great deal. It needs a horse, a saddle, a bridle, stirrups, and the sort of clothes which...
Hesitation indeed, yes. 23 seconds for my favourite sport, starting now.
My favourite sport is crown bowling.
Clement Freud.
Deviation. I am his favorite sport.
If I may say, there are 2 meanings to the word sport.
Yes.
Already established.
Yes, well, all right. I think the audience has well established it for us.
Yes,
they think that was a good challenge and a justified one. Clement Freud, 20 seconds for my favourite sport, starting now.
The great thing about riding is that it gets you fit and strengthens your leg muscles. It was of this sport that a man said, I sprang to the stirrups and jorks and he galloped, we galloped, all 3. I can't
Kenneth Williams, why do you
The
challenge?
deviation is completely untrue.
You could have had him for repetition of the gallop.
Oh, well, I wasn't going for that. It's completely untrue.
But it's bad luck.
Dirk galloped. It was none of
I'm
that
sorry,
Jorrocks.
it's still
Jorrocks
with
wasn't
Clement
even there.
Freud. There are 7 seconds left for my favourite sport, Clement, starting now.
Horse racing is a fantastic...
Derek Nimmo, why do you challenge?
Horse. Too many horses.
Yes, he had a lot of horse,
breath.
yes, a
Very.
lot of horse. And there are 6 seconds for you, Derek. My favourite sport, starting now.
I jump onto Clement Freud's back, dig my spurs into his thighs, put my whip above my head.
No, Clement Freud challenge first. Why?
Too much Clement Freud. He said it 3 times.
Well done.
I must
Clement Freud, you have gained a point for your...
wholeheartedly agree. There is too much. Very willing to lose a point in such a good cause.
Well, all right, Clement Freud, with Clement Freud, you've gained a point. You have 1 second left for my favourite sport, starting now.
Spurs are...
So Clement Freud and his favourite sport and others' favourite sports have taken him into a lead. He's now 3 in front of last round's leader, Derek Nimmo. Lucy Bartlett, it is your turn to begin. Tatting. Can you talk for 60 seconds on this subject, starting now?
Tatting is a very, very favourite word these days with people. I think they slightly abuse it and they overuse it. If you really want to know what it means it's a lot of old ladies in the north of France who took a piece of silk.
Derek Nimmo.
No hesitation, I didn't want to do it either, really. I'll let that go by.
None of us wanted to do it, but still,
Say
she'll come
something,
back
yes.
again, I'm sure.
Yes.
There are 45 seconds for tatting, Derek Nimmo, which you're going to talk about starting now.
Well, I take my needle in my right hand, and I get the cottle in my left hand, and I thread the silk through the needle. And then I poke it into a piece of material, which I have in front of me, and embroider the most beautiful and delectable patterns. Sometimes peacocks, sometimes hens, sometimes little sheep.
Clement Freud.
Sometimes.
Repetition of sometimes, I quite agree, yes. Clement, you have another point. You have 27 seconds for tatting, starting now.
Many people feel that tatting is the art of seeing Jacques Tati in a maximum number of films, and this is a very good definition of the word because the actor is a very great comedian, a Frenchman, I admit, a man who is a foreigner to us, but nevertheless...
Lucy Bartlett, why do you challenge?
He's talking about Jacques Tati, not tatting.
Yes, he was, but he did establish that in his mind this was what tatting is. But I think I must, unfortunately, be fair and give it to Clement Freud. I'm very sorry, Lucy. So there are 12 seconds left for tatting Clement Freud, starting now.
But there are people who feel that the word means something to do with material, embroidery, taking old clothes around from house to house, getting people perhaps to purchase it, which is called...
Clement Freud, it's your turn to begin this time. Other people's manners. 60 seconds. Would you try and talk on that subject starting now?
They are quite extraordinary, other people's manners. My manners are exemplary, but look across the desk at a man called Nimmo, Derek Nimmo, and you will have some idea of the depth to which other people's manners can sink. I have seen this man kick elderly women and children. I have seen him fleece orphans. I have seen him accept presents without saying please or thank you, which I think is about as bottomless a pit as one can sink into. But when I talk about other people's manners, one should not forget that there are people possibly even ill-mannered than Derek Nimmo.
Derek Nimmo, why have you challenged at last?
Oh dear, repetition, too many Derek Nimmos.
And you were
there
reluctant.
Couldn't be too many Derek Nimmos.
So you'll certainly try and address it all. Derek Nimmo, there were, alas, in that piece, too many of you, so there are 16 seconds for you to talk on other people's manners, starting now.
Little Carlton in Lincolnshire is my favourite other person's manner. Great Cardshalton, which is near Southampton, is another one of my more...
Kenneth Williams.
It's nowhere near Southampton.
Right.
Kenneth Williams' knowledge of geography gains him a point. And there are 5 seconds, Kenneth, for you to talk on other people's manners, starting now.
Other people's manners sometimes do affront us when they're strangeness, but then, of course, they may be foreign. I mean, you never know.
Kenneth Williams, the audience are with you. Derek Nimmo, it's your turn to begin. Waiting for the phone. I must explain that Derek Nimmo's writing something. The subject is waiting for the phone to ring. Starting now.
What I do when I'm waiting for the phone to ring is to lie on my back on a green silken rug with a hooker in my mouth. And on my big toe I place very carefully, because it's a rather difficult thing to do, 4 jugs, one on top of another. The first one is a red one, the second blue, the third green. I then toss them into the air, and they fall on the ground, shattering all over the place, making a most awful mess. It's quite fun to watch, really. Another thing I do when I'm waiting for the phone to ring is to sing children's lullabies. Rock-a-bye, baby, in the treetop. When the wind blows, the cradle will rock.
Clement Freud, why do you chant?
Repetition, 2 rocks.
Well done, Clement Freud. 17 seconds for waiting for the phone to ring, Clement Freud, starting now.
It's a very negative thing to do, and the best thing that you are able to pass your time away in doing this is that
you fell in the same slough that I did.
You're both sitting beside, yes, you're
Yes.
seeing the slough over there. Derek Nimmo, who challenged, has 10 seconds for the subject of waiting for the phone to ring, starting now.
Somehow, Zaya Haver.
Kenneth Williams.
Well, fluff hesitation, call
Yes.
it what you
In
will.
slough, So you have a point, Kenneth. You have 8 seconds for waiting for the phone to ring, starting now.
Invariably, I find myself doodling. I get out a pencil and paper and I just doodle. I do lovely little drawings.
Lucy Bartley, why do you challenge?
Double doodle.
Yes, a repetition of doodle. You doodle too much, Kenneth. I'm terribly sorry. So your double doodle gives Lucy a point, and there are 1 second, Lucy, for waiting for the telephone to ring, starting now.
I do rather disgusting.
No, 2 points. Lucy, it is your turn to begin. Getting my high heel caught in the pavement. Starting now.
Getting my high heel caught in the pavement is something I haven't done for a very long time, because these days high heels are not high heels or otherwise stiletto heels. They're very flat and round. So many years ago, I was walking down Oxford Street in my elder sister's high-heeled shoes. I was rather embarrassed about having them because I wasn't supposed to be wearing them. I came to a level crossing and...
Clement Freud.
Hesitation is deviation. But a level crossing in Oxford Street.
So, Clement Freud, you take over this subject now. Getting my high heel caught. Would you like to talk on that subject? I'll tell you how many seconds. There are 37 seconds for that subject, starting now.
Getting my high heels caught in the pavement is something which seldom happens because I'm usually arrested as soon as I put on my high-heeled shoes. A policeman comes along and says, prior to stepping off the road onto the pavement, I have to inform you that you are behaving in a manner liable to cause a breach of the peace. Unhand me, I say unto the policeman.
Kenneth Williams, why?
This is all to do with interviewing this policeman, but it's nothing to do with getting your high heel caught in the pavement.
It's very devious, isn't it? There it are. So you can take over the subject for us, Kenneth, now. Getting my high heel caught in the pavement, Kenneth, starting now.
On one occasion when I had to wear these nylons and a pair of very high-heeled shoes was in this sketch of double dozen double dammers, you see.
Lucy Bartlett, why do you challenge?
Well, because it's nothing to do with getting it caught in the pavement.
You mean that double-double was a repetition?
Well, I thought it was...
Yes, double-double's repetition and... Well done, Lucy. 10 seconds and another point to you for getting my high heel caught in the pavement, starting now.
The last time I got my high heel caught in a pavement was extremely embarrassing because there was a whole army behind me of soldiers. They all...
Clement Freud, why are you challenging?
Hesitation.
No. No. I mean, 2 seconds for getting my high heel caught in the pavement, starting now.
So these soldiers said to me...
Well, we'll never know what those soldiers said to her.
No, but she's gained another point. She's catching up, but Clement Freud is still in a definite lead over Derek Nimmo, who is leading the other two. Kenneth, it's your turn to begin this round. Don't look like that. The subject's gambling at 60 seconds, starting now.
Gambling is unquestionably evil. There are no two ways about this, and I don't think any religious body would oppose me in arguing on that score. It is a way whereby people imagine that by laying down something small, they will get back something big. And as such, it's a disgrace, because all of life teaches us that only virtue and the long way round is the right way round. There is no shortcut to good fortune, and if any of you think that you're going to find a shortcut to good fortune, I'm here to tell you that you're very much mistaken. And I think that when these governments do it in the way of this...
Lucy Bartlett has afraid challenge you, Kenneth. Awfully sorry to stop you because we were enjoying it. Lucy, what's your challenge?
I think it's deviation.
It was deviation, it was repetition, and it was absolutely everything, I thought. Lucy, you have now 21 seconds for gambling, starting now.
Gambling is something much more romantic. It's something that lambs do in the spring. There they are.
Derek Nimmo.
Hesitation.
Alas, it was. She was so overcome with her sudden inspiration that she lost a point. 14 seconds for gambling. Derek Nimmo, starting now.
Please can I put £2 each way on Little Buttercup? Yes, says the man. How awfully kind of you to place your bet with me. I always do. I always come here every time this year for Goodwood, because it's one of my favourite race meetings. 20 shillings for...
Well, what an interesting state of play we're at. Derek Nimmo and Clement Freud are neck and neck. And this is the last round. How to be perfectly happy. What a good subject for such a last round. Would you talk on this subject, Clement Freud, please, starting now?
The best way of becoming perfectly happy is to eradicate from your life every vestige of unhappiness that might lie therein. You examine yourself most carefully and say, what nasty difficulties do I have which weigh heavily on my poor brain?
Yes. Lucy Bartlett, you challenged.
Oh, well, he hesitated.
Yes, he did. Yes, indeed, yes. And you have a point. He who hesitates is lost in this game. 42 seconds for you, Lucy, for how to be perfectly happy, starting now.
The best way to be perfectly happy is to be perfectly sane and normal. It's be very kind to your friends to eat an awful lot of food.
Kenneth Williams, why do you challenge?
Deviation.
Why?
Well, perfect happiness has nothing to do with normality. A lot of idiots are perfectly happy.
Speaking personally, I quite agree, Kenneth. 34 seconds for how to be perfectly happy, Kenneth, starting now.
The only way to be perfectly happy is, of course, to be only present in the conscious sense, and that is to say, to have no past sense, no fore sense, only to be living in the
Clement
present.
Freud, why do you challenge?
3 senses.
Oh, yes, there were a lot of senses.
Does
yes.
it matter? And it was so lovely what I was doing.
Loveliness doesn't come into this game. It's cut and thrust,
I'm just getting
Kenneth.
worked up. Cut off there I was, in my prime.
Yes, in your prime, all right. How to be perfectly happy, Clement, starting now.
Go round to all your friends and beg them to love you. Love me, you say, in order that
Derek Nimmo, why do you challenge?
Too many me's.
Love me, yes?
No, love you, love me.
There were too many loves, weren't there?
But
Too
he said
many
me.
me's. We had too many.
I'll put it
One
to
me.
the audience. The game is neck and neck. I cannot come between these two men. Do you think that Derek Nimmo's challenge was justified? Too many me's. If you think it was, will you cheer? If you think it wasn't justified, will you boo? And will you all do it now? The boos have it. Clement Freud, you have a point. How to be perfectly happy, 20 seconds left, starting now.
And so my dear friends gather around and say you really are a perfectly super chap. And I become enormously happy, in fact, perfectly happy. But there are other ways of reaching this. You can go to the milkman and say, "Dear milkman, fond of you as I am, it would be of enormous advantage to me if you could leave 3 pints..."
Derek Nimmo's challenge, why?
Just counting up the number of enormouses, actually. Repetition, too many enormouses.
Too many enormouses.
Enormously happy, enormous satisfaction.
Milkman, enormous
milkman.
Enormous
Kenneth, you usually support your friend on that side
I do,
of the table.
really. I do. I love him. I do. It's true. I'll make him perfectly happy.
Derek, Kenneth Williams and Clement Freud, I should say, are announcing their engagement at the end of the series. But right now, Kenneth has helped Derek to gain another point, because there's 1 second left for how to be perfectly happy. Derek Nimmo starting now.
How to be perfectly happy.
Well, I think, seeing the way Derek and Clement played the game, I think the final result is fully justified. They are both equal. Let me first of all mention, though, that Kenneth Williams was in 4th place. Lucy Bartlett came up with a final spurt, but didn't manage to get anywhere near the winners. She is a very good second, but our winners in a clear lead are Derek Nimmo and Clement Freud, equal.
The chairman of Just a Minute was Nicholas Parsons. The program was devised by Ian Messiter and produced by David Hash. Present Kenneth Williams, Derek Nimmo, Clement Freud and Geraldine Jones in Just a Minute. And as the minute waltz fades away, here to tell you about it is our chairman, Nicholas Parsons.
Thank you very much indeed. Hello and welcome once again to Just a Minute. Well, as you just heard, we have 4 experienced campaigners at this game of Just a Minute. So just let me remind you first of all, in case you may not have heard it before, of the rules of the game. I'm going to ask each of these competitors to speak for just a minute on some unlikely subject which they know nothing about, without hesitation, without repetition, and without deviation, in other words, going off the subject. I think the rest of the game will become apparent as we go along, and let us start this week with Derek Nimmo. Derek, can you talk for just a minute on giving up smoking, starting now?
Last summer, on a beautiful day in the Mediterranean, I was sailing in a 3-masted schooner out about 45 miles off the coast of Mallorca. And there we anchored and looking down into the sea, we saw bubbles coming to the surface. My old friend Smolensky King, Smo to his chums, had dived to the bottom of the Mediterranean, and there...
Kenneth Williams.
Deviation has nothing to do with smoking.
His name, I'm just explaining his name.
Well, and you're very rapid,
yes,
justify.
because his name was Smolensky King. We used to call him Smo King, you see. That was his nickname. And as he'd gone to the bottom of the water, we were giving him up because we thought he'd drowned. Giving up Smo King.
Oh, very clever. It's very involved.
No words at all. I've no words. I'm completely flabbergasted.
Well, so are the audience as well. Anyway, Derek, you've managed with that cleverness to gain yourself an extra point, and with 34 seconds left for giving up smoking, you start now.
The best way, of course.
Clement Freud, why do you challenge?
Terrible hesitation.
Oh, really?
Now, I must be fair here. If you'd said hesitation, I would have agreed, but it wasn't a terrible hesitation. No, it's too late now, Clement. No, it wasn't a terrible hesitation.
You're repeating yourself now.
Yes,
you repeated yourself a lot.
But I don't lose points when I do it. Derek Nimmo. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, Derek Nimmo couldn't come today. We have Derek Nimmo instead. Derek, you have another point and 33 seconds left for giving up smoking starting now.
Get rid of the rubbishy stuff. This will do you no good. I look at his buttons and I say, those are not for me.
Kenneth Williams.
Hesitation,
No, there's no hesitation. You're very funny when you say it.
If I may say, Mr. Williams, I have a natural impediment, and it's unfortunate that you make fun of it.
All I can say, Derek, is...
all that rubbish.
Derek, do watch your natural impediment in case it goes against you the next time. This time I'm with you with another point and 24 seconds left for giving up smoking starting now.
I had a fire in my flat 2 weeks ago. This has made me give up...
Clement Freud.
Hesitation
that time, undoubtedly, yes. Giving up smoking, Clement, with 20 seconds left starting now.
Giving up smoking is an absurdly easy thing to do because people do it over and over again.
Derek Nimmo.
Derek Williams?
Repetition.
I must point out that Derek Williams couldn't come to the show either today. Derek Nimmo.
Thank you. Repetition over and over again.
That is absolutely
correct.
Yes, it's a very obvious type of repetition.
Oh,
so you have 14 seconds left.
Well, that's really...
Over and over again sounds to me extremely repetitious, and I'm entirely with Derek Nimmo.
I think you should ask the audience. That's what you should do.
All right, I will ask the audience if that's how you feel.
Yes, go on, ask them.
I am not afraid, and the audience here will be the...
white, look at him.
Well, you've gone red, Kenneth.
No, I'm naturally ebullient. I'm always ebullient.
Well, keep your ebullience down for a moment, please. Well, I put it to the audience without fear. I will ask you to be the final judges and arbiters. Do you think that Derek Nimmo's challenge was justified? And if you do, will you please cheer over and over again? And if you don't think it was justified, will you please boo? And will you all do it together now? Kenneth Williams, you will be the judge. Which do you want? The cheers
the boos most definitely have it. Oh, yes, don't they?
Kenneth Williams.
Oh, tell him Milo.
You're on that side of the room with Clement Freud. You have helped Clement to get a point. I hope he remembers it when you're in difficulties, because Clement has a point and he has 14 seconds left for giving up smoking starting now.
It's not...
Derek Nimmo, you challenged.
Hesitation.
You have your point, Derek, with 13 seconds left for giving up smoking starting now.
Kenneth Williams is one of those people that when they're hot, steaming and smoking, one should certainly give up. I've always said this to my friends. If you see this fellow...
I've always said it's repetition. Within the meaning of the act.
Well, it wasn't a moment ago.
If you always said it, then it must be repetition.
All I can say is the audience decided that over and over again was not repetition, which to me is more repetition than I've always said. So I think I must be fair here. Derek Nimmo has still got it, and he has 5 seconds left with another point for giving up smoking starting now.
Drink a bottle of...
Clement Freud, you challenge. Why?
Hesitation.
I don't think so, no. 4.5 seconds left for Derek Nimmo starting now.
I wanted to go to see a woman, and there she was on a high hill.
Deviation.
Why?
Nothing to do with giving up smoking.
Going to see a woman? I think seeing a woman is a jolly good way to give up smoking. Derek Nimmo is rushing into the lead with another point, and he has 2 seconds left for giving up smoking starting now.
Rotten Row is full of fag ends, that's why.
The non-smoking kick has given Derek Nimmo a commanding lead of 9 points over Clement Freud, who has 3. Kenneth Williams... all right, Mr. Nimmo, please, just continue. And Kenneth Williams has 1. Geraldine has yet to score, but it's only the end of the first round, so, Clement, let us carry on with you to start this time. Hackneyed phrases. Would you please try and talk for just a minute on this, starting now?
A hackneyed phrase is the sort of
Derek Nimmo.
Hesitation.
Yes, it does seem a pity, but he hardly got going.
No,
but,
what a shame.
Alas, it is true. Hesitation, you
He's
have
a bit shaken, I think, actually. A bit shaken, yes.
All right, 6 seconds for hackneyed phrases, Derek, starting now.
Whoa, gee up. Come on, then. These are the phrases.
Clement Freud, why do you chat?
is not a phrase.
It is, if I may say, may I justify
it? All right, if you can, yes.
If you're in a hackney cab, a horse-drawn hackney cab, it's a very hackneyed phrase.
It's not a phrase.
I think...
Goodness, the audience is with you, isn't it?
The audience may be with you, Derek, but I think a hackneyed phrase does mean a phrase that is intelligible to an audience. So, Clement, you have the point and the subject. You have 52 seconds left for hackneyed phrases, starting now.
Do you come here often?
Geraldine Jones, you wish to reply?
Hesitation.
Hesitation is correct, yes. Hackneyed phrases, Geraldine Jones, starting now.
A long time ago, when Clement Freud was a young man, "Do you come here often?" was a hackneyed phrase. Nowadays, however, the fashion has changed, and hackneyed phrases tend to be much more obscure and multisyllabic. Things like counterproductive and participation of the people, democratization of factories, all these are...
Clement Freud.
Hesitation.
Hesitation, I think she was giggling, actually.
Very lovely giggling.
Lovely stuff,
Lovely stuff. Shall we let her continue? Shall we see if she continue with her lovely stuff? All right, yes. The audience want to see, Geraldine, if you can continue with another point with the lovely stuff. Hackneyed phrases, starting now.
The audience is proving that it is really again me, but I shall try and continue. Hackneyed phrases are often those phrases which come most readily to mind in moments of extremity, like the moment that I am experiencing now. Phrases like...
Derek Nimmo.
I'm afraid I hate this, but phrases, there have been too many, actually. I'm so sorry, it's repetition. I do beg Miss Jones.
Are you saying there were repetition of hackneyed phrases? Or
no, just phrases, just the word
phrases.
Not a gentleman, I think.
No, you could have had her for hesitation. I'm not going to let you have that one, Derek. No. No, Geraldine is 1 woman against 3 men, so she has another point.
That's all she is, against 3.
Well, Kenneth Williams is on your side, Geraldine, as well as the audience, I think. So you have 14 seconds left for hackneyed phrases, starting now.
There is a type of romantic novel which is particularly rich in the sort of disease that we're discussing at the moment. Falling in love, eclipsing...
Clement Freud.
Hesitation.
No. Start raving mad.
You want to give it all to Geraldine Jones, do you?
It was so fluent, wasn't it? Beautifully fluent.
It was very fluent, but there was a slight hesitation there. So Clement Freud has another point, and he has 7 seconds left for hackney. When you win a point, do you want to give that one to Geraldine Jones as well, Kenneth?
No, I might feel like it later.
All right. Clement Freud, 7 seconds for hackneyed phrases, starting now.
On a clear day, you can see the seaside is one of the most hackneyed phrases that landladies in boarding houses along our coast...
In case people haven't spotted it already, whoever is speaking when the whistle goes gains an extra point. Clement, you have taken 2nd place behind Derek Nimmo, who still has a very definite lead. Geraldine Jones in 3rd place, and Kenneth Williams has 1 single point at present. Kenneth, would you discourse, if you can, for just a minute on the pop scene starting now?
There are various descriptions of the pop scene. It can, of course, refer to the time when the curtain goes up on these rows and rows of ginger pop bottles, and that's made of this sort of mineral water, sparkling, impregnated with ginger, and used by the comics, and they pretend to get drunk. It must be mixed up with kumis, which is, of course, fermented mare's milk and frequently drunk in Outer Mongolia, and lovers drink it with their arms intertwined and sing the traditional air, "There's an old scene by the mill, Nelly Dean." It's all wrong, of course. There's no old mill there anymore, because it's all nowadays done by electricity.
But Derek Nimmo, why you challenge?
Well, deviation. We're onto electricity and old mares and very little of the pop scene.
Well, I thought, according to the way Kenneth started, that he was onto this curious type of pop drink.
Yeah.
And I felt I was still in a sort of poppy drink. Is that right?
There was the pop scene, the pantomime I was talking about. As there were various kinds.
Oh, you're on the pantomime? Oh, then it's definitely deviation. We've got off it now, yes.
Yes, but I was going on to the other one in a minute.
I don't think...
I should have it, yes, I'm still on it. Yes, not on the mare's milk, I think. Yes.
I think out of your own mouth you have committed yourself to complete deviation. We don't know where the dickens you are, do you?
No, well...
No, there you are.
I give up gracefully.
All right.
Very gracefully.
Well, I didn't know you brought grace with you, but you can give... Anyway, Derek, Nimmo, you have the subject, an extra point, of course, and you have 28 seconds for the pop scene starting now.
There are many kinds of pop. Sarsaparilla, dandelion and burdock. Ginger fizz, ginger pop. Lemonade.
Geraldine Jones, why do you challenge?
Hesitation.
Hesitation is correct. The pop scene is with you now, Geraldine, with 23 seconds left, starting now.
The pop scene is such a hackneyed phrase that I'm reluctant to talk about it altogether. I suppose...
Clement Freud.
Deviation.
Why?
She's not going to talk about it. It must...
I said I was... I said I was reluctant. I was going to force myself.
No, however you justify, Geraldine, I think that challenge deserves a point and the subject. Clement, you have it. You have 15 and a half seconds for the pop scene starting now.
We seem to have established in the last round that if you giggle, it can't be counted as hesitation. I'm therefore going to giggle for the next 14 seconds.
We enjoyed the giggle, Clement, but during your giggle you were challenged. Derek Nimmo, why do you challenge?
Well, on 2 scores, there was a repetitious giggle.
Yes.
And deviation.
Why? Why was the deviation?
Well, he was talking about giggling instead of
That
the
is
pop
the pop
scene.
scene. It's a very happy scene.
Yeah, but that doesn't justify. I can't give you 2 points, I'm afraid, Derek, but you have 1 point, and you have 10 seconds for the pop scene starting now.
Down we go, twanging our guitars in dark, dank cellars, with our long hair swishing round our...
Kenneth Williams, why do you challenge?
It's nothing to do with a pop scene.
It sounds extremely explicit of the pop scene, as I've seen it on occasion.
He's mixing it all up with mods and rockers. That's not the pop scene.
Well, we obviously have some mods and rockers in the audience. I think it describes a certain pop scene that I have seen, if you'll forgive the pun. So, Derek Nimmo, you have another point. The audience obviously haven't forgiven the pun. So you have 5 seconds for the pop scene starting now.
Half a pound of tuppenny rice, half a pound of treacle. That's the way the weasel goes. Pop goes the weasel.
Geraldine, why I believe in fairies is the subject, and would you talk, if you can, for just a minute, starting now?
I believe that a Frenchman once wrote that if there were no fairies, we would have to invent them, and this essentially is why I believe in them. If it were not for my belief, how would I know that when a little girl loses a milk tooth and puts it in a saucer of salt overnight, it wouldn't be replaced in the morning by a sixpence? The little winged creatures...
Clement Freud, why do you challenge?
Hesitation.
Hesitation, alas, is correct. You have 35 seconds for why I believe in fairies, Clement Freud, starting now.
I believe in fairies because I meet them so very frequently. Mostly in Hyde Park, but also in Green Park, St. James's Park, and many other greeneries around London, where they dance in little rings of an evening.
Derek Nimmo, why do you challenge?
Hesitation. He's sort of grinding to a halt.
Well, I definitely
Only
think...
stopped when you buzzed. I saw your finger on the...
You were grinding away a little
Well,
bit, yes, definitely. Derek Nimmo, you have a point. You have 20 seconds for why I believe in fairies starting now.
Down in Wiltshire I saw my first fairy. There he stood, with gossamer wings, a little silken shroud enveloping his legs, and 2 little green shoes. He was an unusual fairy. In fact, people have told me that they've never seen such a beautiful one as the one that I saw. It was a lovely...
Kenneth Williams, why do you challenge?
Deviation. How could they have talked about it if it was you the one that saw it?
I said that I described him.
Actually, you could have had him for deviation because the subject is why I believe in fairies. He's talking about the fairy he saw. Clement. Kenneth, you have the subject with, of course, an extra point, and there are 2 seconds left for why I believe in fairies starting now.
Well, I had to, because we were in this pantomime through Peter Pan, and...
Well, as Kenneth was speaking as the whistle went, he's gained another point, but he's still trailing a little behind Geraldine Jones, who is still a little behind Clement Freud, who is still behind Derek Nimmo, who's still in the lead. And, Derek, it is your turn to begin. What to do if you get stuck in the elevator? Some people might say the lift, but the elevator covers many countries. So, Derek, there's the subject. Have you thought about it? Would you please try and talk for just a minute, starting now?
Of course, it's tremendously dependent upon who you're stuck in the elevator with. If I was stuck in the elevator with Clement Freud, I should try and keep a dignified and distant silence. If I was stuck in the elevator with Kenneth Williams, I should be apprehensive. If I was stuck in the elevator with the lovely Miss Chilwell Jones on my side, I call her Chilwell Jones incidentally because that's where she hails from, then I perhaps would not be so silent and maybe would behave...
Clement Freud.
Hesitation,
yes. Yes. Clement, you have the subject for 35 seconds for what to do if you get stuck in the elevator starting now.
If you get stuck in an elevator, the best thing to do is to scream loudly and strongly until help comes. If you get stuck in a lift, which is sometimes also called an elevator, then there's nothing for it but to pick up the small telephone if provided, dial the numbers which are written on the telephone and say, "Excuse me, I am in the position in which you've asked me to do what I'm now doing, which is dialing. Please send someone at once to assist me and help me to get out of this predicament." And in the fullness of time, when this happens to...
Kenneth Williams, you challenge.
Hesitation.
Yes, it was a pity because he was going so marvellously.
Shame, yeah.
Yes, it's pretty. Kenneth, you have another point. You challenged at just the right time because there's only 1.5 seconds left. For what to do if you get stuck in the elevator starting now.
You absolutely scream.
Clement Freud, you challenge. Why?
Hesitation?
Hesitation, undoubtedly. Yes, Clement Freud, you have the subject back. Another point. What to do? What to do if you get stuck in the elevator for 1 second starting now.
Scream your head off.
I'm sorry, no, just a minute. Derek Nimmo, you challenge. Why?
Hesitation.
Undoubtedly hesitation. Derek, you have another point. You have 1 second left for what to do if you get stuck in the elevator starting now. Help! No! Geraldine, you challenged.
It's my turn to get a point for hesitation.
Yes, definitely. Geraldine's got another point for hesitation. You have half a second left for what to do if you get stuck in the elevator starting now.
Wait, very...
So everybody got a point on that last little bit, except Kenneth Williams, who looked most shocked of all. So I was had you in mind, actually, Kenneth, to try and put you a little bit further forward with this
That's
sort of
nice.
little gimmick. But you lost the opportunity there. You were far too generous.
Yes.
So you're still trailing behind Geraldine Jones, who's behind Clement Freud, who's behind Derek Nimmo. In that order, we carry on to the next round. Kenneth, it's your turn to begin. You might yet catch up, if you're keen. Interstellar space. That is the subject. I'll give you a second to think about it. And will you start now, please?
Interstellar space can be, of course, that region where you get the planets and your constellations, and it can be the space reserved for interring stellar. This has been referred to actually in your drama, because Shakespeare himself says, "Lend me your ears, I come to bury Stella, not to pray." What?
Clement Freud.
What?
Clement Freud, you challenged what?
Hesitation.
Yes, I'm afraid so, yes. Also very devious. He didn't come to bury Stella, did he?
Well, you know what I mean. I was illustrating the point with that. Of course, I'm no fool, Ducky.
You will be unless you keep your hand on your buzzer. You won't get any points. All right, Clement Freud, you have the subject, you have another point, and you have 43 seconds left for interstellar space, starting now.
The entire atmosphere over the cornfields and under the stars could reasonably be referred to as interstellar space, because space has no actual limit. Space is an oxygen-filled pocket of air which hovers over the earth and under the sky.
Kenneth Williams, why?
Inaccuracy, it's true. Deviation, you see. Because there isn't oxygen in certain places, that's why you have to be in a capsule.
Would you like to say all that again a bit slower so we understand?
He said all of space, he said, had oxygen in it.
Yes.
Filled with oxygen. Well, it's not, and that's why you have to have these, go up in these cubes, where you take your own oxygen.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'll leave it to you. I don't know whether there's oxygen anywhere in space. Will you please be the judges? Because you probably know more than any of us here about space and oxygen. If you think that Kenneth Williams' challenge was justified, will you please cheer? If you think it was unjustified, will you boo? Will you please all do it now?
Hooray!
You let forth your oxygen in great aplomb. So, Kenneth Williams, you have a point, and you have the subject with 35 seconds for interstellar space starting now.
Yes, well, this
You
space...
shouldn't have done it, you see. Clement Freud's got it back again. Why? Hesitation, you see.
I hadn't started.
I know you hadn't. And not only hadn't you started, it looked as if you couldn't start. So, Clement, you have another point. You have interstellar space starting... 29 seconds starting now.
Interstellar space.
Derek Nimmo.
Hesitation.
Hesitation for Interstellar Space, 27 seconds left, starting now.
I remember the first time I met Stellar Space. What a dear girl she was. With her lovely blonde hair trailing down her back. We went off for a picnic, I remember, on the sandhills just outside New Brighton. And there I saw her lying in her bikini.
Kenneth Williams.
Yes, there are no sandhills outside New Brighton.
I'm sure we'll get lots of letters from New Brighton, but as Kenneth Williams...
I went there. It was dreadful done.
We're going to get even more letters from New Brighton. Before we get the whole of New Brighton marching down to Broadcasting House.
They are the most lovely sandhills, too.
Kenneth Williams, will you carry on with Interstellar Space for the last 8 seconds, starting now?
It's this space reserved for her, and at the obsequies they have Stellarites who mum in 5s and 6s and 7s sometimes.
In spite of the remarks about New Brighton, Kenneth Williams, with his Interstellar Space, has jumped into second place, 1 point ahead of Geraldine Jones. But they're both trailing quite considerably behind Derek Nimmo and Clement Freud, who are still neck and neck, exactly equal. Geraldine, it's your turn to begin. Why I've given up stockings in preference for tights. And will you please talk for just a minute, starting now?
I'm not going to give any of those reasons which might be rather improper and embarrassing to the audience on the grounds of chastity for giving up stockings in preference for tights. Instead, I would explain simply that I have a very small foot and a very short leg, and most stockings don't therefore fit me. Because, you see, when I get the stocking on and pull it to the top, because my leg gets fatter and fatter towards the top, the stocking won't reach. On the other hand, they make tights, which, when you put them on, stretch much more effectively than any stockings ever stretch, and they go right up to a nice, comfortable position. And this basically is my reason. I also have to confess that I'm extremely influenced by advertising, and I find it very difficult to resist all those glorious women who imply that if only you wear tights instead of stockings, you will not only look nice about the legs, but you'll look nice everywhere as well. This...
Oh, Derek Nimmo, she almost did it, but you challenged. Why?
Well, hesitation.
No, definitely
No,
not.
all right then.
No. She went for 50 seconds, and why I've given up stockings in preference for tights for the last 5 seconds, Geraldine, starting now.
Also, I am a certain... It's rather...
Oh, you're browbeating her, Derek. I think she...
hand on the table.
As Geraldine is the only person to have spoken for such a considerable length of time without anybody challenging her, I'm going to give her a bonus point for that. She nearly did 60 seconds, she only did 50, but she has 1 bonus point. She became flummoxed at the end by being challenged because she was in full flood, and there are 3 seconds left for Derek Nimmo to talk about. Why I've given... You brought this on yourself, Derek. Why I've given up stockings in preference for tights, starting now.
Well, I really couldn't stand those beastly nylons, you know. Particularly nasty, I found.
So, with that last little flourish from Derek Nimmo, it's time for us, alas, to finish. With Kenneth Williams and Geraldine Jones almost equal in 3rd place, a long way behind Clement Freud, who is only 2 points behind this week's winner, Derek Nimmo.
Chairman of Just a Minute was Nicholas Parsons. The programme was devised by Ian Messiter and produced by David Hash.